philanthropic activities. He's saying that he wants to construct a computer laboratory somewhere in the Volta region, and he thinks that learning computer must be behind a computer and not behind a blackboard or a marker board and what have you. Watch out for quakes in lab coats. And so that's also another story on the front page of the Mirror. If you grab a copy, you get the details. Two other papers quickly. The first is the Daily Graphic. Daily Graphic says that it's truth and accuracy every day, and this is the weekend special. So the lead story is here on the front page. It says that struggle for natural resources in northern Ghana, clashes over gold escalate. And so this is really the issue about Galamsey, and Daily Graphic is reporting that clashes are increasing in the northern part of our country, and something ought to be done about it. Indeed, something really has to be done about it. The other story here on the front page, it says that iconic photo exhibition chronicles literary works of Efua Sutherland, and story is on page 5 of the graphic. Efua Sutherland is a very well-known name in our country. If you want to grab the details of it, please grab a copy of the Daily Graphic and you can interrogate that story in the graphic. The last paper that I'm taking a look at today is the Daily Guide. And Daily Guide has also multiple stories here. Election 2024, Okuapem Hene endorses NAPO, and stories on page 3 of the Daily Guide. And this story actually is captured this way. So, in a notable show of support and commendation, the Okuapem Hene Osiadio Kwesi Ekufu III has bestowed glowing praises upon Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, running mate to the MPP's presidential candidate Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, urging Ghanaians to fervently vote for the MPP in the December 7th elections. The Okuapem Hene conveyed his sentiments during an encounter with Dr. Prempeh at his palace in Ekropong on Thursday, 25th of July 2024. So Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, the running mate to Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, paid a courtesy call on the Okuapem Hene, and that is where he got the said endorsement. The other story here: fire destroys 3-story KNUST hostel. Too bad if our student hostels are destroyed. Let's see what we can do to support our students in KNUST with this destroyed facility. Perhaps they are okay. So the biggest story on the front page of the Daily Guide today: MPs back 1.5 million euro tax waiver for e-learning tools. Every time I hear anything about education, I get excited. So the story actually says that members of parliament have approved a tax concession amounting to Ghana cedi equivalent of 1,517,040 euros for the supply of installation of integrated learning laboratories in senior high schools, and it's called Televic Phase 2. So the request for waivers of import duties, import VAT, NHIL, Get Fund, Levy, Exim Levy, and Special Import Levy was presented to the House on Friday, the 28th of June 2024 by the Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, Abna Osei Asare, on behalf of the Minister of Finance. And that is the story there. The rest of the details, page 3 of the Daily Guide. Last 2 stories on the front page of the Daily Guide, and then we would settle down for our conversations to begin. So there is the VRA allay fears of water spillage. Stories on page 6 of the Daily Guide, and every time you hear about spillage from the Volta River Authority, it reminds us of recent difficulties, but it is good that they are assuring the residents that they should not have any fears. They will deal with the matters that will arise. Okay, so man arrested for attempted sale of knees for 150,000 Ghana cedis. Amazing. Stories on page 6 of the Daily Guide, and I can't believe that in the 21st century, in 2024, someone will attempt to sell another human being. I don't know what will motivate something like that. So the story says that a 30-year-old man, Nana Kofi Amofa, also known as Kofi Yesu, has been apprehended by the Central Eastern Regional Police Intelligence Unit for allegedly attempting to sell his 6-year-old niece for 150,000 Ghana cedis in exchange for a Canadian visa. Mr. Amofa was arrested on Tuesday, the 23rd of July, 2024, around 10 p.m. in Gomwa, Bujumburam, near Obolu Estates in the Central Region. Police say they had information that the suspect had expressed his desire to sell the 6-year-old girl, name withheld, to get money to travel to Canada. Amazing. Not even your own daughter, your niece. Anyway, so that's how the newspapers are looking like. We will take a quick breather. When we are back, I'll start introducing my guests who have started arriving in the studio, and some joining us via video link, and we'll begin our conversation today. Today, we are talking about our economy. Share your thoughts with me. Those of you who are joining us via Facebook, I welcome you. I have seen that Maxwell Appiah is already sending messages. Maxwell Appiah in the United Kingdom, thank you for your wonderful message. And those of you joining us on ABC Television, let me welcome you to today's edition of The Forum. It's going to be interesting. We are talking about Ghana's economy. We are talking about the state of affairs. We are talking about whether we are living within our means or not, and whether the future holds any good for us as we are being promised. It's going to be interesting, a conversation. Stay tuned. We are back shortly after this break.
Ghana season 3 no abedwa Scanbrain Limited edi won dwumadi sronko a wo frɛ no Best Inventor Ghana season 3 no we bia mu edi ama obi biara a otumi ade ne nsa ebo eniama a ehuhia ye ewo yen dada asetene mu akensie ni obedi nkonim no enya 5,000 Ghana cedi ni otoso mienu ebenya 3,000 Ghana cedi na ni obatoso miensa nso enya 2,000 Ghana cedi dwumadie yebeyi ewo ABC News Ghana TV so nemom dwumadie nankasa ebe hyase ewo September bosome no 21st 2024 ewo St. John's Grammar School Assembly Hall kwa nia wo hia ne se obe register say ya
studio. A very good morning to you, Doc.
Good morning, Wilberforce, and thank you for having me.
Indeed.
You have a great show on Saturday like this to educate and to let people make informed decisions. I think you are doing a great work.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Congratulations to the producers of the show, Emmanuel Oheming and Daniel Gidiglo, for their industry. Okay, so other guests who will be joining us: Nick Pakpo Samoa Ado is managing partner, Ado and Ado Legal Attorneys. He's a lecturer at the Gimpa Law Faculty and a member of the National Democratic Congress. He will be joining us today. And then Dr. Hayford Ayirakwa. Dr. Hayford Ayirakwa is a development economist with the University of Ghana. He would also be joining us shortly in the studios. And then Dr. Antoinette Tibu Dako is the Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. She would also be joining us via video link. And then there is Philip Kobner, who is a lecturer and managing partner at so is this okay, so I'll get that name correctly and then put it out there once he joins us. So that's Philip Kobner. I'm not being able to read it from where I'm seeing it there now. All right, so Dr. Eric Boachi Yadom. I hope I got the name right.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so I've been We all heard the finance minister present the mid-year budget review, and I've been trying to read the document over and over again just to be able to understand the full details. I'm looking at paragraph 1 all the way to paragraph, I believe it's paragraph 35 or so, or paragraph 26. So paragraph 26. So paragraph 1 to paragraph 26, he talks about all the good things that have been happening as far as the economy is concerned. One of the things that caught my attention is the fact that the finance minister says that, in short, we are living within our means. You are an economist, you are a financial person. Based on the background information that you have, which you are going to start your conversation with, are we really living within our means as a country?
Okay, so first of all, to say you are living within your means, you have to look at how much revenue you have, how much you have spent, then you balance off to know whether you are living within your means or not. Somewhere last year, when the main budget was read, government was estimating that he will raise revenue in a region of about 76.1 billion Ghana cedis. That was the targeted revenue, and government was able to do around 74.6 billion Ghana cedis, which shows that in terms of revenue mobilization, government had a shortfall of about 1.2 billion. Then you come to the expenditure side. Government targeted expenditure was around 104 billion Ghana cedis. By the half year, government has done about 96 billion Ghana cedis. What it means is that in terms of the targeted expenditure, government spent less. But you have to strike the difference between how much government anticipated to spend and how much he anticipated to also raise in terms of revenue. And your government overspent, about a little over 23 billion Ghana cedis. So if we look at it that way, government has exceeded, or government didn't live within a certain means. However, in terms of doing the analysis, you have to not only look at the nominal figures, you have to have a relative measurement, that is in terms of GDP. So the budget deficit as a percentage of the GDP, government did about 0.2%. That is the lowest budget deficit since the Fourth Republic in 1992. We haven't done a half year. This is not a full year. We can go through, especially in an election year, we can go through government budget deficit over the years.
Let's do that.
Then we will know whether government has been prudent or has been managed properly. In 1992, the government, which was an election year, government budget deficit was about 4.2% of the GDP. That is a whole year. So we can take at least half of it. So it means that if we strike it half year, the budget deficit in 1992 was around 2.1%. However, I'm not saying that government expenditure and revenue mobilization is evenly distributed throughout the year. In some period it may go up or it may go down. But to make a fair argument, we can take half of each of the periods and compare to what government has now. Then you look at 1996, which government budget deficit was about 2.2% of the GDP. Half year will be about 1.1. I should have said until now, that was the lowest so far. Then you come to 2000, government budget deficit was about 8.1. So on the average, half of it will be about 4% or 4.05. Then you come to 2004, where government did about 2.2 or 2.3. So half of it in 2004 will give you about 1.1 or 1.15. Then you come to 2008, budget deficit was about 10%.
Wow.
10%. We are going up. So half of it will be 5%. Then you come to 2012, budget deficit was about 12%. Half of it will be 6%. Then you come to 2016, 8.2, half of it to be 4.4. Then you come to 2020, it was about 10.8, 10.9. Half of it is around 5.5 or 5.6. I mean, then we have done, in half year, we have done 0.2.
Which is 2024.
2024. Half year, we've done 0.2. Let's assume that government is going to overspend by 4 times or even by 2 times. If we multiply what government, we are projecting the annual budget deficit. If we are about 0.2 and government over quadruple its expenditure 4 times, it will be 0.8 for the whole year. That will be the lowest since the Fourth Republic. So if government says government has been prudent in the management of the finances for the first year, the records are there to show.
Okay, but can you, before you continue, can you explain what is the reason why government is is able to cut its expenditure this much? Because this is quite drastic.
Yeah.
If you strike an average, you are getting an average of about 5% throughout the 1992 period, from 1992 to date. If you strike an average about 5%, so 0.2% is quite intriguing. What's accounting for it?
You know, some school of thought have argued to the IMF program, but in 2016 we were on IMF program and we did a budget deficit of about 8.2%.
Yes.
So it cannot entirely be pushed on the IMF program, and IMF only will provide advice. It is up to the government to either go by the advice or not. So it is not entirely, although it attributes in a certain direction, it's not entirely the IMF program. Then some school of thought has also argued that it's because government has renegotiated the debt and the interest has been postponed. And I said that governance is about choices. You know, choices in that you have to decide on how best you will be able to cut down your expenditure. So the renegotiation of the government debt and government bonds will also, in a way, has given a respite to government fiscal space. I mean, and it also boils down to government commitment to ensure that the government lives within its means. So there's a multiple factors, but like I said, governance is about choices and the decision that you make to be able to give you the liberty to do what is good for your people. So generally, all the conditions that can be attributed to whether it's IMF, whether debt negotiation, whether living prudently, all over the years since 1992 has been available to every government. It is not peculiar to this particular government, but I think that government has been prudent enough to make a historic feat, to achieve a historic feat by trying to do 0.2%. And even the all year, if government quadruple, like I mentioned, the quadruple its spending and the budget deficit quadruples, we will be doing a little about 1% or less. That would be a great feat to have been achieving.
But some people say, let me welcome Dr. Ayerakwa. Dr. Ayerakwa is a development economist at the University of Ghana. Doc, let's establish that you are here. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, and good morning to your
And it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's been a while. Nice to be back here.
Yes, great. Okay, so I'll come back to you, but let me do a follow-up with you. Some say that if government cuts down expenditure this much, the effect is obviously on the major projects that it is doing, which is essentially for the benefit of the ordinary person. So if you cut down on the expenditure, what it means is that what you were going to do for the ordinary person, you are no longer doing it, and that in itself has an adverse effect on the population. Is this something worth talking about?
Yes, on one hand, it's true that you cut down expenditure, your capital expenditure, your compensation and all that is what you are cutting down. So largely, it's going to affect government activities. However, let's look at the reality on the ground. Most government projects that were initiated are still ongoing. The government has not stopped rendering essential and important services to the people of Ghana. What I see is that government has been effective and efficient in revenue mobilization. You know, So there are two ways to bring your budget deficit down. Number one, you have to raise more money. Number two, you have to cut down expenditure. So I can see the two going hand in hand. I mean, expenditure has been moderately managed. I mean, and government revenue has also, if we see the shortfall, it was about 1.6 billion. Which means that in terms of revenue projection, government achieved over 90% of the anticipated revenue. I mean, so generally, it is a multiple factors in the management of the fiscal position of the country. So and I also think that the Minister of Finance and his team has done a great job, especially in the debt renegotiation, to save and to give a briefing space. I mean, to what the government should spend the money on.
Okay, so Dr. Yakwah, we just began our conversation today by looking at that comment that the finance minister made, which is like the foundation of our conversation, that we were living within our means. Now, Dr. Boakye Yiadom has talked about what he makes of that argument being made by the finance minister.
Right.
He has also talked about the history of our deficit. And he's saying that if you look at the history of our deficit, and you're even striking an average from the figures that he gave me, 4.2 in 92, 2.2 in 96, all election years. 8.1 in 2000, 2.3 in 2004, 10% in 2008, 12 in 2012, 8.2 2016, 10.8 in 2020, and jumping all the way down to 0.2 as of today in 2024. That signals something.
Right.
I want your thoughts on what you make of the comment, whether we are living within our means as a country, with all the benefit of the background information that you have that you can give us.
Right. Well, thank you, my good friend and brother. So, in fact, this media review, I have taken my time to read it, and I was actually struck by two paragraphs in the media review, and that will connect with what Dr. Boakye Yiadom is saying. Paragraph 25 and paragraph 24 and 25. And in 25 in particular, 24 lays the foundation for 25, where 25 he says that we are not here to seek supplementary
which is something we'll talk about into details. Yes.
Which for me comes back to establish the point, the discussion you were having, that there's something unique about this media review. If you look at a number of things that year on year we expect to see, media reviews have been an avenue to come and request for additional resources to go and do the things you want to do. And especially being an election year, one expects that there will be a lot of that appetite to want to get more resources to do a lot more, and that potentially has implication on the debt issues of the country. But it also weaves closely into what has been done and the kind of breather. Don't forget that prior to all these negotiations and debt release that we are getting at the moment, the onus was on us as a country to find the resources to settle part of our maturing debts, to be able to pay our external creditors here and there. And now, based on that efficient work that has been done, we have some leverage to be able to do a few more things. And so monies that ordinarily will be struggling and borrowing by the state to go and pay part of our debt that are due, now we have that freedom to be able to spend on other things. And so if you look at all the indicators, social interventions are going on. You look at the numbers for the LEAP, school feeding, and etc. They are showing very high numbers. FRESHS is really going on very well with a lot of commitment. Of course, there were some issues sometime, I think, early this year. But today, I run a secondary school, because I'm a board chair of a secondary school. I follow up on week to be sure everything is fine. And if you ask, what about the food system? So these days, everything is fine. And it gives me a lot of joy and relief. And again, you travel across the country, and a lot of capital infrastructure are going on, even within Accra. You take a look at Obechebi Lamte interchange, its work is moving on. Look at Pokwasi, Amasa, and Sawam, work is moving on. You take Akasua, I use that route quite often. Kasua, Winneba, work is progressing day and night. That's the beauty of it. You take Adenta, Dodowa, work is progressing day and night. So you ask yourself, how come we can do all these things and yet be able to stay within our means? And for me, it comes back to the point of efficiency and well thought through policies. And you don't just go to your creditors and say that, oh, well, you know, I'm in trouble, so give me debt relief. No. There are a number of indicators they will look at. They would be sure that indeed what you have put in place is prudent enough and they can guarantee. And if, of course, they should also be able to get a track record of what you are capable of doing. And on that basis, they can say that, yes, if we give you this relief, it has potential of impacting on your economy. And I think what we are seeing didn't just happen. It is as a result of evidence that indeed this government has done something right. And we need to commend them. For me, where we need to commend, let's commend. Where we need to straighten them, we'll straighten them. But for this one, I think that government needs to be commended.
Okay, so let's establish that Dr. Antoinette Tibu Darko, who is the Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, joins us via video link. Let's establish presence with Dr. Antoinette Tibu Darko. Very good morning to you, Doc.
Good morning, Wilberforce.
Yes, so it's good to hear
you. And good morning to my colleagues who are on the panel today.
Yes. They are. I think they are excited to hear your voice. Already, they are showing signs of excitement. So, Doc, the beginning of our conversation today has been on the fact that the finance minister says we are living within our means. We are going to talk about details, but your two other colleagues here have given foundations as to why they agree or disagree with the comment that we are living within our means. From where you sit and from the statistics available to you, are we really living within our means?
Yes, I think we are. We are making sure that we are not going above whatever we are earning, meaning that our cuts on expenditure and the very keen pursuance of fiscal prudence is paying off. The finance minister did not ask for any more money. And I think that alone is a very, very perfect indicator of the fact that we're living within our means. So we've been talking about all our revenue improvement measures, which was also part of the earlier budget statement that is at the end of 2023. The main budget statement for 2024 spoke a lot about how we need to improve our channels, avenues of revenue generation, and spoke also about expenditure cuts. So I think that the statement we are living within our means is very, very true. The important part about it is also how we have managed to restructure our debt and ensure that we don't go above our debt, ratio, because that was one of the main challenges that last year caused all of these issues that brought the economy almost down to its knees. Let's also talk about the fact that there's been a lot of conscious effort in ensuring that despite all the challenges, support for bondholders has happened. The fact that inflation has also greatly reduced, So I think putting all of these things into perspective and then being able to still stay within a certain expenditure bracket is very, very on point to say that we are living within our means.
Okay, great. So I wanted to establish presence for everybody to know that you are really joining us. Let's go to the telephone, and that's because I don't know whether Philip is a doctor or a professor. I stand to be educated on that. So Philip Kobner is joining us via telephone. Sir, good morning if you are with us. Hello, Mr. Kobner. Okay, so we will raise Mr. Kobner via telephone and we will continue with the conversation with him. For now, I have in the studio Dr. Eric Boakye Yadom. He is a senior lecturer in banking and finance at the University of Professional Studies in Accra. And then Dr. Hayford Mensah Ayirakwa, who is a development economist, and he's also a lecturer at the University of Ghana. And then Dr. Antoinette Tibudako is the Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. She's joining us via video link. Nick Papo Samoa Ado should join us in no time in studio today. So we've gone around talking about the issue of whether we are living within our means. Let's come to talk about growth. Now, growth, because when the minister was speaking, he talked about the fact that growth continues to exceed our expectation. He says that the 4.7% growth rate reported by the Ghana Statistical Service for the first quarter 2024 exceeds the 3.1% recorded in the same period in 2023. And I find this intriguing because, you walk the streets, and I'm coming to you, Dr. Boakye Yadom. You walk the streets and people will tell you that they are not feeling anything about the fact that the economy is growing in the midst of all the turbulence. But the statistics and the figures are also showing that there is growth happening as far as our economy is concerned. How do we reconcile what the people say is their reality as against what the figures are saying?
Okay, so...
Sorry. Please, go ahead.
Okay, so one thing about the economic analysis is the facts and the feelings. And I think that usually, personally, I do not like to tell somebody whether his life is good or bad. And economic issues are usually relative or personal. But what we can talk to is the figures and the data. It's just like going to the hospital and they take your vitals and they tell you, based on your temperature, nothing wrong with you, you're okay. And the patient says, something really wrong with me. You see. So what we are trying to say is that based on the data, there is a possibility and there is potential for the country to transition. And economic investment is like going to the bank to put your money down. If I are doing fixed deposit, a 1 year or 6 month fixed deposit, if I put the money today, I won't get the returns today. It will be about 6 months or less a year. So the signs are telling us that, yes, indeed, there's something good happening. But for it to trickle down to the individual, it will take some time. It will not be a one-day wonder. So, but why do we say that the figures are pointing to a certain right direction? We look at where we are coming from. In 2020, 2021, where inflation was almost run away, you buy something today, you go to the market, the price have doubled and or has gone up by 50%. Then you look at it today, and the prices are relatively stable. Now, inflation is around 22.3 or so percent, and it doesn't mean
22.8.
22.8, thank you. 22.8%. It doesn't mean that you go to the market when you say inflation is coming down. You will not go to the market and find out prices have reduced. It's just like driving. I'm driving at 60 kilometers per hour and I reduce to 40 kilometers per hour. The car is still moving forward, but the speed of the movement has reduced. That is exactly what we need to understand. That prices will not drop drastically. It will take some time. But then there's some stability, and recovering from a pandemic is not so easy. And I think I hear the argument that it is not only Ghana that was affected by the pandemic. Then I ask a simple question. 3 people in the room, they got the COVID. Their rate of recovery will be different. We will not expect all of us to recover at the same time, depending on the underlying conditions. Then the second argument will be that, so does it mean Ghana had an underlying condition? Yes, Ghana has, and still Ghana is having underlying condition. What an underlying condition? Since independence, Ghana has been heavily dependent on import-driven economy. You can't change it with 2 years. And a highly informal sector that we have only 10% paying tax. A lot of Ghanaians do not pay direct taxes. Where do we get the money? So, yes, Ghana, we have underlying conditions. That may not be the same as the underlying conditions that our neighboring countries may have. So our response and our recovery from the pandemic will not follow the same trajectory. So indeed, there are signs that we are getting better, but we are not out of it yet. And the signs are pointing to the right direction. It was the same signs we were looking at early 2022 that we said that the economy is crashing down. It was the same signs, and now the signs are telling us that things can get better. And I keep saying that without certain intervention, things would have been worse. Usually, we only look at what we don't have, but we don't look at what we could have lost. Or we don't think about the fact that it could have been worse than what we're experiencing, like countries like Sri Lanka and all that. A country came to a total shutdown and all that. So I should say the signs are pointing to the right direction, and that with time it will reflect in pockets.
So the signs are pointing to the right direction. There's Baba Chairman on Facebook who says that in other governments. Okay, so I'm sure he wanted to say in other words. Government in order for government to be able to consolidate the gains we have made, we must be mindful not to overrun our budget. Indeed, the car is still running, but the speed has reduced. And Baba Chairman's message is reflecting exactly what you were saying. Is that correct, Dr. Boakye Addo?
Exactly.
Okay, but this car that is moving, you make mention of the import dependence of the country. That is not something that can be changed immediately. So the question that people are asking is that what really can be done to deal with this import dependence? Because I've heard people like Dr. Isaac Bwedu, yes, talking about the fact that I think Dr. Frank Bano as well, all of them saying that, look, there is a need for us to cut down on our imports. How is that going to be done? From where you sit, and I know you are not an importer, but I'm just asking that you are an economist. Yeah. If you were advising the government, what steps needs to be taken, especially the things that we depend on very much? I hear rice is one of them. We import a lot of rice. Yeah. What are we going to do?
Yeah. So you have to look at government interventions that have been that has started some time back in terms of the 1D1F. I mean, to be able to manufacture the basic goods that we use as a country. Now, one may argue that if government is doing 1D1F, why has it not filled the gap? I mean, and if, let's say, even food production, onion, tomatoes, and all that, if we have the planting for food and jobs, why is it not filling the gap? You see, like I said, there are fundamental challenges that we should admit, but these interventions are gradually filling a certain generational gap, which is not as fast as we anticipated. So when we invest more in these industries, for example, last I was in your studios and I was talking about we had a conversation on Ekumfi fruit juice, and with the Ekumfi fruit juice, it came to fill a certain gap. I mean, that now children who go to school, instead of buying the imported ones, can now buy locally made fruit juice. Some of this initiative needs to be encouraged to fill the gap, because we can't wake up overnight and say we will not import. You should be able to build structures. I hear government is doing a lot in terms of rice production, encouraging local rice to fill a certain gap. So it will be a gradual process, just like Nigeria did over the years, and Nigeria now is difficult to import rice, and they are heavily dependent on their local rice, which is also creating a certain level of jobs. So we have started. It is something we should have started years ago, but it has now started about 7.5 years ago, and I think that gradually it is filling the gap. Then, as we progress, we can reduce our reliance on import. And you see, and when we reduce the reliance on the import, it will cushion the cedi, and it will relieve reduce the pressure that is being placed on the Ghanaian cedi. Yeah. If we don't encourage industries, to come up, we will not do ourselves, but no matter what we do, and the impact, what do we call it, of import on our balance sheet won't do so well. So I think that the industries need to come up.
Okay, so I would like you to hold your thoughts there. Dr. Tibu Darko is in Boko, or en route to Boko. So she's joining us via video link, and usually, sometimes in those areas, it's quite difficult. So I want to bring Dr. Tibu Daku in again because she might leave us along the way. So, Doc, we want to pick your thoughts quickly on the issue of growth, as we have spoken about, and also the social interventions that have been mentioned in the mid-year budget review as against the actual budget that was read earlier on late last year. So you will pick your thoughts quickly on the issue of growth and social interventions, and then we'll allow you to go, and you can join us anytime you have stable network. Dr. Tibu.
Okay. So I think that the main thing is about the upward revisions that have been projected. So we see that our real GDP growth rate has been adjusted from 2.8 to 3.1, and an oil real growth rate from 2.1 to 2. All of it shows how government is moving in the right direction and the positive outlook that is happening. And it is definitely a reflection of what is going on in the economy. You cannot get this positive outlook or this improved growth rate if everything is going wrong. But as Dr. Bachi Adam said, the issue and the discussion is, how does this translate into the average Ghanaian person's pocket? How do we all feel this in terms of when we say that inflation has gone down? How do you actually feel that, yes, the prices of goods and services has come down for you to be able to afford it? Wilberforce, that's why I want to link the social interventions to some of these aspects. Okay, I believe strongly that we are still experiencing challenges that will not allow the economic growth that we are seeing, or the economic growth or the statistics and the data, what it is telling us, to be able to, feel the actual bit of it in our pocket. And that's because we still have challenges such as prices of our own goods, things that we produce here. So let's not even talk about goods that we are exporting, but our own goods such as plantain, yam, cocoyam, the very goods that we produce here in Ghana, the farm gate price and the final retail price, the difference is just too vast. We have to consistently be conscious of how we build more systems that bring more realistic prices to the end consumer. And until we do that, people will still keep measuring economic growth by, I don't feel it in my pocket. I don't see it. Yes, the government is investing in roads, the government is investing in a lot of infrastructure, but the person will say, I don't feel it in my pocket, because the fact that the middleman is the one who determines the price for the end consumer is still one of the biggest challenges that we face. So you would buy plantain for so much in East Legon, in Sakumono, etc. Just go beyond Amasaman and you will find that the money that you used to buy 4 or 10 fingers of plantain, you can buy 2 bunches. And that is where the challenge is. So for me, the growth rate improving very significant, because remember that for us now, it takes us out of all those downgrades that sent us on the downward trend. So our growth rate's improving. We shouldn't take it for granted. I talked about the fiscal consolidation. I forgot to mention that we are even envisaging a 0.5 surplus at the end of the year. Amazing. We haven't done that in the last how many years when we look at since COVID. So for me, I think these are very significant things that we must be very proud of. But then we must also start asking ourselves that along the value chain of the very basic foods that we consume and we actually produce here, how do we make sure that the prices are such that the end consumer actually then starts to begin to feel that, yes, it is true, economic growth is translating into some of these positive things. So I think that is where then we must be looking at. If not, we'll get the same thing that says that, well, the economy is growing, but I don't feel it in my pocket. And I think this is where most of the argument would center. I'm very happy about the fact that this budget speaks to the disbursement of significant funds, actually 5.4 billion Ghana cedis to support social welfare programs like LEAP, school feeding, capitation grants, and the national health insurance. And this is what is key in helping to reduce the burden on vulnerable groups. So for me, that one of the links where you are translating the economic growth or the recovery, the stabilization to the average Ghanaian's pocket or its impact on their lives is through these social interventions. Because at the end of the day, we all know that we are not at par. So everybody feels the hardship at a different level. And that is where the key argument has always been. So with social interventions and with government spending more in this area, making sure that the social interventions don't collapse but are strengthened, I think that is a key trump card that we should keep speaking about. 5.4 billion Ghana cedis is not a small amount to support our social welfare programs. I'm also very excited that after all of this, there's also even a commitment and a will to even spend more. Let's look at what has even been spent on free SHS alone. Over I think it's about 1.4 million students have been covered under free SHS. Overforce, there's always this argument about the fact that
the free SHS
we want actually. No, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear
please.
you. The free SHS figure is 1.5 billion used to support about 1,488,575 students.
Yes. And Wilberforce, let's divide this amount. And it tells you that on the average, this is how much the government has invested in every child's education. You don't have to take it for granted. Talk about school feeding. Talk about 1.6 million beneficiaries in 2016 at the time that we took over, to over 4 million as of June 2024. 34,000 caterers and cooks, predominantly women. This is jobs. And that brings me again to all the attempts that government consistently makes to also improve the unemployment situation. Let's talk about the Ghana Skills Development Fund, giving support to businesses, innovative businesses, to make sure that they can employ more. And these are grants which government is having to pay all through our budgets. Let's talk about the support that is given to the Youth Start program to make sure that youth with innovative ideas are all receiving capital. The capital that is going to SMEs is going to market women, the credit facilities. All of these things are interventions to cushion businesses. And remember, COVID was, 2020. We talk about the collapse of businesses and all of these issues. So for me, these very, very, very significant improvements are important. Finally, let me talk about the healthcare system, the e-healthcare project. Let's talk about the new healthcare facilities that have been completed. Urology, I've heard of a center of excellence, a urology, nephrology center of excellence. Let's not even go far. Our agenda 111, the district hospitals. Overforce, yesterday I went to Yagaba Kubori. Look, I was here in 2020 walking that same path. There was not one tarred road in Yagaba Kubori. I went this time, there are tarred roads, and the agenda 111 hospital almost 60 to 70% complete. Amazing state of the art district hospital. This is not reported. This is fact. I saw it myself. The investments that is being put in healthcare. And Kubori, far away, let me explain something to you. See, at the end of the day, a lot of social investments, the immediate benefits of social investments are not felt. The long-term benefits is what is always felt. So immediately government will invest and put so much into it. People will say, we can't feel it. But remember, first you would have to spend so much to travel a long distance to seek healthcare. Today, healthcare is right at your doorstep. If you start to quantify all of these things, then you understand what government is doing to improve the lives of the people of Ghana. National health insurance, the package the increase of enrollment from 44.3% to 63.5%, continued support for nursing and teacher trainees, improved water and sanitation infrastructure, urban housing development, the deficit in the housing sector, and how this has been a consistent worry for government. Let's talk about the different aspects of this that is now being addressed. I think on the whole, this budget has done a proper analysis of what was promised, what was assured the good people of Ghana that this is what we'll do as 2024 comes. Government has proven that we have done it, and we will even continue to do it. We'll continue especially to lay emphasis on social investment, because that is the way we are going to ensure that we cushion the poor and vulnerable and make sure that every Ghanaian is able at the end of the year to realistically understand that the economic growth that is being experienced has translated to an improvement in the standard of living.
Okay, Doc. So, very interesting thoughts you shared there, and I was hoping that Nick Papo will be here. He's not here yet, but we'll continue. I want you to react to this before I let you go, and you are free to join us anytime you have good weather and good network in the course of the program. We have 2 more hours, and so but respond to this. Augustine Wood has sent a message on Facebook, and he says that the only way for us to cut down on imports is not only about government being radical and coming out with laws, but rather we the citizens also changing our mindset from how we have been trained to only see bad in everything Ghana made and to start patronizing Ghana-made goods. So he says that typical example is rice imports. It's called perfume rice, and rice produced here in Ghana is called tujimi. So I think Augustine Wood is essentially trying to say that. Yeah, I think Augustine Wood is essentially trying to say that we have a mindset issue to change. The government can introduce radical measures, but there's a mindset issue to change. And what can government do in that breath to do this mindset change? Dr. Tibu, before we allow you to go.
Yes, I think that very, very rightly said. I don't know if it is a thing, a cultural thing, that if you procure imported rice, then it kind of equates to your advanced standard or your social standing in life. I think one of the things that we must first of all start to do then, tell the restaurants not to use imported rice. I don't know, but it cannot be government regulation. It must be a commitment. And restaurants will also tell you that, well, if you don't use imported rice, people will not order our food. But the thing is, if you give them an option, then they will do that. In Nigeria, it's local rice. If you don't want it, fine, then don't eat rice, eat something else. We have plantain, we have yam. We should consume more of that. But rice seems to be a staple food, rice, maize, and because it's easily accessible and so on. But yes, definitely, we ourselves must make a conscious effort to tend towards more of our locally produced stuff than to go into all these imported things. But I also believe that it is not just about food. It is about other things. It is about our commitment, not just to consume locally produced things, but it is also about our commitment to also make sure that when we are producing it, we produce it at a good standard and we produce it at an affordable price. Definitely, every businessman wants to make profit. That is understood. But at the end of the day, can we also understand that income levels and etc. matter? So if you produce more and you can sell more, you will earn more than if you produce less. You can't sell much because the price is so high, then you really don't make that much, isn't it? So averagely, it's not just about the mindset of the consumer, but I think it's also about the producer. Of course, then it also then comes back to government. How does government also produce the enabling environment, credit at the right price, of course, taxes, and that's why I am simply awed and amazed by His Excellency, the Vice President and Flag Bearer of our party who now speaks to a simple tax system. I think this will do magic and properly improve the Ghanaian business society's ability to make profit, and therefore give us even more innovative businessmen who will say that yes, we can produce to substitute a lot of the foreign imported goods. Look, once upon a time, I had a big argument to somebody about why we even import office pins and office clips. That is a no. Actually, no, it's a not. And for me, I think these are the little things that we think it doesn't cost much. Things that we put in our hair, the females. Wigs. I have a colleague, Dr. Kojop. He's always so angry about artificial hair wigs. How do we produce local substitutes? Every dollar that we use to import these things should matter to us, and therefore we should make that conscious effort. Finally, Wilberforce, let me also speak about the fact that as we are producing the enabling environment, innovation, and etc., let's remember that when we grow these industries, it also then offers more jobs. So to also, help to address the unemployment issues that we consistently speak about. So yes, indeed. I believe that if we start addressing some of these issues, it will address a whole value chain of other issues.
Okay, Dr. Tibu, so we would allow you to go for now, but as I said, we would come back to you anytime you have good network. Thank you very much for your input. I'm coming to you, Dr. Ayirakwa. But just as I do that, I think Baba says that I think government should reduce drastically the rate at which it imports goods. We cannot be importing at this scale and expect the city to be stable. The 1D, 1F, 1V, 1D policy must be looked at again and change their current trajectory. Okay, so that's Baba Chairman from Tamale. There's George who says that, wow, Wilberforce, I'm enjoying your panel. They are speaking in simple language and using real relatable scenarios for ordinary man to understand. Dr. Boachi is very good and looking like another brilliant addition to the resource persons to the voice of the land. Indeed, I agree with you. And the other one, good morning once again to everyone from Kujo Asempa. Okay, Kujo Asempa. Let me also acknowledge that I see your messages, Dixon Donson, George Ampofo, Papa Sule. I see your messages and all that. Send us a message about the topic that we are discussing and we'll be minded to read it. So, in fact, this government has been tremendous when it comes to infrastructural development and development in general. But the problem has to do with the way we in the communications front disseminate these monumental developments. Indeed, we are citizens, but must equally change our so it says indeed we as citizens must equally change our taste preference for foreign goods. The government can introduce all the draconian laws, but if we still behave the way we are behaving, the end results will be same. And that's Baba, thank you for your messages this morning. I think we are doing the program together today. So let me come to you, Dr. Ayirakwa. We're talking about growth, and then we brought in the social interventions. So you have your bite on the growth projections that have been made and its relatability to the ordinary person.
Well, absolutely. And I share in the views of my brother, Eric. So what we see, and Eric was on point when he related it to your vitals. And when you can easily fall sick. And that's exactly what happened to us as an economy.
Oh, okay. So hold on your thoughts on where you left it. Let me just establish that Mr. Philip Kobna is joining us on the telephone. Mr. Philip, good morning to you. Hello, Philip.
Good morning, Wilberforce.
Good morning, indeed. So we wanted to establish that you are there. I'll come to you after Dr. Ayirakwa's submission. So just be ready.
Because I'm actually also maybe losing contact. So I thought that, if I'm on, then I probably couldn't go. I'm lucky. I may have to make some submissions. I don't know.
Oh, no, you will.
Okay.
It's not about...
I'm actually also on the road. I'm driving, actually.
Okay. It's not about luck at all. We engaged you, and so we'll come to you shortly.
Okay.
Yes. Dr. Ayirakwa.
Yeah. So thank you. And good morning to my good friend, Philip. Yes. So like I was saying, if one is recovering from any medical condition, it can be gradual. And like Eric said, it could be a function of many factors. It could even be the environment you live in. It could be the kind of food supplements that you are having alongside your medication. You know, in a typical context, they will tell you that, oh yeah, you need to also add this little part to it to be able to boost your immunity. And all of these things come into being to help build your economy. And so, based on what the science have shown us, they say, oh, based on the conditions and experience, it will require you so much time to be able to come back to the state. But over the time, and as a result of other things you are doing, we are seeing that indeed your recovery is faster than we anticipated. And that's exactly what is happening to us as an economy. Now, for the average person to be able to feel this, don't forget, government's responsibility is to create that enabling environment. And for the private sector to have confidence to want to put their investment in your economy, it means that these same indicators we've been talking about, for which reason some people felt that it was no longer a safe place to bring their resources, are now beginning to see that, oh, when you take your money to this country called Ghana, the indicators are looking good, the fundamentals are looking robust, and there's potential for growth. And everybody wants returns on their investment. And so once you look at it from that perspective, then you begin to see that once the private sector have confidence in your economy, that's when they begin to invest. And when the private sector is investing, then they begin to engage the average person. And that's where employment issues come in, like Dr. Thibaut Darko was chronicling. That's where you begin to see direct impact. And so it's important that it would not happen overnight. But these fundamentals must be guarded. We need to protect it and make sure that whatever we are seeing today, we don't lose guard at any point. We need to keep our focus on that ultimate goal. Especially, for me, I'm a little odd because normally within an election year, by this time we are beginning to see a number of things going out of hand. But it looks like there is that deliberate effort to make sure that we don't drive out of gear. We are keeping focus. The road says the speed limit for this place when you get there is 30 kilometers. They are making sure they're keeping the 30 kilometers.
30 kilometers per hour.
and, you know, and that is what is happening. And we need to make sure that we keep an eye, encourage the managers of the economy to make sure that they actually continue in this path. Because if we are able to do this and sail smoothly through this election, next year will look even brighter for us as a country. Now, tying that closely to the issue of import and etc. You know, I think, and we've been discussing this in this same studios for a while now, and my position has not changed. I think as a country, we've gotten to the point where we need to have an import substitution policy. And what I mean by this is that it is good to put 1D, 1F. It is good to do all the things we are doing. And I recall 1D, 1F had this whole mapping, which showed each district and what potentially they were good at doing. It's good, but what problem is it solving? Whatever 1D, 1F we established should be addressing a gap. And so the establishment of 1D, 1F should be a function of the gap we are trying to fix. And I'm sure there is something that, if you look at the 1D, 1F policy, I'm sure there's a gap analysis that was done. And so we shouldn't just allow anybody to say, I'm establishing this company because we want the factories to come. But if they're coming to establish a factory which is not going to directly address that gap that we have, then yes, we are doing something, but in the long run, the impact will not be felt as we want it to be. And this is why I think that, yes, a lot has been done when it comes to rice importation, and it's one of our major imports. But over the past 7 years, we've been able to scale down on rice import to, we've been able to be self-sufficient by 45%. And that is very good. And if we continue in this way, what it means is that it will get to a point where if we can do 80%, 90%, and you are sure that you are self-sufficient in the production of particular commodity, that is when you can begin to put in specific disincentive for importation. And
so that's what you mean by import substitution policy?
Yes.
Okay.
So the policy should tell us what kind of commodities we want to produce. The policy should tell us when we want to be able to self-sufficient in producing those commodities. The policy should tell us how we want to encourage the consumption of those commodities. And that takes me to the point I want to make next. That as a country, the major client for any produce we have is the government. And so if we take rice, for example, if we take any of the produce we are having, and as part of the policy I am proposing, it should be a policy, for example, we are in July, August, September, already organizations are making plans, procurements are ongoing to look at Christmas packages here and there. It should be a policy, and this policy should be taken up by Auditor General during their audits, that nobody buys rice which is imported as a Christmas package for staff. Whether it's a union, it should be a policy. And so when we get there and they're auditing you, and you decided to take the taxpayers' money, or whether it's an IGF, whatever, to go and import a foreign brand when we have a local substitute, then you have questions to answer. That, for me, if we do that, then we are going to have a situation where those who are producing that particular commodity have some minimum market that they know that they are going to reach out to. And it is when you are able to produce a certain quantity, that is when your production costs will come down. Because as we speak, and you rightly mentioned Akumfi, how many households can actually buy Akumfi compared to Akumfi juice, compared to the other substandard products on the market? And so if you are trying to promote something and the cost of production is so high, then you can't sell, because then it becomes like a privilege for a few households. But every one of us would want to drink Akumfi or give Akumfi to their children to go to school, or because it's a healthier option. But it is expensive because cost of production is high. But if Akumfi is, for example, guaranteed market, that we are going to buy X quantity by this period, they know that, then it means that it would cost us so much now to produce Akumfi. And so we can sell it at this minimum price for everybody in Ghana to be able to get it. So it's a conscious and intentional decision that has been made by the government. I think when you take another major area, has to do with our poultry imports. And I know Planting for Food 2.0, Planting for Food and Jobs 2.0 has a component where, if my memory serves me right from what I read, the ministry, as we speak, is in the process of importing about 18 million day-old chicks to support poultry farmers to be able to produce enough poultry so that it kind of meets the demands that we have, especially going into December, Christmas, where there's so much demand for poultry. If we are able to do this, what it means is that there will be self-sufficiency in terms of poultry. Then we can say that, hey, everybody make sure that going to this Christmas, every poultry you buy as a government entity, you are actually buying a locally produced poultry. And so these are some of the things I think we should have. It shouldn't just be left out there as a program, but it should be tied to specific things that we are doing as a country.
Okay, so there's a lot more to talk about, but let me bring in Philip now, who is joining us on telephone, and also to establish that Nick Bakpo-Samoado has joined us in the studio. So Philip, I'm sorry for keeping you waiting so long on the telephone, but it's understandable. When we first tried, I think we couldn't establish the connection. To quickly pick your thoughts, we started this conversation by talking about whether or not the minister's statement that we are living within our means is accurate, or whether or not you agree with it, and if you agree with it, why? And then the second thing we've spoken about is the issue about growth. The fact that the figures are showing that we are growing, but people are saying that they are not feeling it in their pockets, they are not seeing it physically in their day-to-day living. How do we justify these claims of growth as against the reality that the ordinary person is feeling? Philip, we are in your hands.
Okay, thank you, Wilberforce, and thank you for having me. I've actually been listening to the conversation. Now, your first question of whether I agree or disagree. To be very honest with you, when I started reading the media budget review and listening to the minister, I was actually waiting to hear something It was only when I got that statement that I started taking his presentation seriously. And that statement is, we are not seeking supplementary funds. So I definitely agree with him. We are not seeking supplementary funds. If somebody tells you he's not seeking supplementary funds, it means that, one, the resources that you have given is adequate and is being used judiciously. Now, that statement is deep because in this year, we have our elections. Election years are years where governments tend to overspend. But within the context of being under an IMF program, are we spending within our means? And the IMF also giving us our money, the 360 million, that's the third tranche, also confirmed the fact that the policies that we put in place in terms of the program, the extended credit facility program is being undertaken judiciously. So yes, one, I agree with the minister, and then I like that the point that we are living within. A lot of things have been said. Eric has spoken, Dr. Antoinette has also spoken. Now, growth cannot be, if you put certain economic policies in place, there are these issues of lag. It will take time before they mature or they materialize, and then people start seeing. So the instant of we wishing to see some change as soon as a policy is put in place is a bit stretching it. Now, on the issue of growth, two things that stand out for me in the media budget are two of the initiatives that government has put in place and is pursuing. And I think that those ought to be expanded within the context of what Hayford just mentioned. I mean, maybe coming out with a certain policy. But I'm thinking of actually the actual implementation of these two policies. One of it is the Economic Enclave projects, the EEP we call it. Now, these Economic Enclave projects, if it is expanded, it's actually going to create good pools in a minimum one each in each of the regions. And these are actually going to tie in and be in sync with the One District, One Factory program that the government is on. Now, the Economic Enclave project so far, I think that there's one in the Greater Accra region with Kasunya, with selected products, maize, poultry, vegetables, and others. There's also another one in the, I think, Setre East, Kumeu. Okay. Then there's another one in Banda in the Uti region. What I'm suggesting is that these are very, very important projects and programs that government ought to expand, not to restrict it to these areas. But my suggestion would be that if we had a minimum of one in each of the 16 regions, they will do magic. Why would they do magic? Because these are great projects. It will be taking, leveraging on the competitiveness of our country in agriculture. And then two, it will create a lot of jobs for the youth that we are talking about. So I think that the Economic Enclave projects are things that ought to be expanded. And then again, it solves or it helps reduce the import dependence that all of us are complaining about. Because if you look at the basket of products under the EEP project, these are products that we import: poultry, rice, and then a whole lot of others. There's another project that the government, another initiative, that's the SME Growth and Opportunity Program. The SME Go, as the government is tutoring it. That actually is connecting most of our small, medium-scale enterprises with resources, with expertise, and with opportunities. Because so then you have the Ghana Enterprises Authority coming in with the Ghana Cares program, and then some of the development banks are also helping us with resources. These projects are projects that would significantly impact the import dependence that we are complaining about. It will significantly impact on the jobs that we want to create, and it will significantly impact on the equity of production and then the equity of job creation in our country. So these are some of the things on the growth aspect that we are talking about. The other thing that would also give a boost to the growth initiative, these two growth initiatives, is also something that the minister mentioned, the ERIP, that's the Economic Road Improvement Projects. This is supposed to be providing the, if you like, the initial conditions for production to take place, construction of the roads, building of dams and then small irrigation facilities, building park houses and things like that. So if the economic road improvement projects is also carried on, I think that's if my memory serves me right, I think it's about 5 billion cedis which is being put into the provision of these roads. So it is actually also going to impact the growth that we are talking about, because if the farms are there and then, I mean, we don't have accessible roads, we go back to the old issues of post-harvest losses and things like that. But I think that the value chain of activities that would enable agricultural production to be taken seriously is something that is being done with this economic enclave project, and I think that it will be a good thing if the government decides to expand it. Now, again, one of the good things that we also had from the media budget that was read is, I think my sister Dr. Antoinette Tibu has mentioned a bit of it. That is the extent to which we have actually restructured our debts. Now, for me, I mean, a lot have been spoken about the Euro bonds and then of official bilateral credits. One of the ones that is actually going to impact significantly is the completion of the negotiations with the IPPs, that's the independent power producers, where the power purchase agreements have been renegotiated with 5 out of the 7 IPPs, and then there have been significant savings, according to the minister and according to the document, I think about $6.6 billion. And that is actually something that will create significant, if you like, fiscal space for resources to be channeled into other activities and programs. So, yes, the media budget, I agree, is a good document, is a good summary of what is going on. And given the fact that we are under the IMF program, that also gives us another layer of scrutiny. Okay, so that layer of scrutiny is also helping us to be on track. So, if you like, we are behaving like good boys or good students. So, for me, these are some of the things that my thoughts on the media budget I want to share for now.
Yeah. So the statistics that you were trying to put out there, when I look at the minister's budget, it says that we have successfully concluded a second review of our extended credit facility with the International Monetary Fund, which leads to disbursement of the third tranche of 360 million United States dollars, bringing the total disbursement to about 1.6 billion United States dollars. Again, it says that we have completed the debt restructuring program with the Official Creditors Committee, OCC, covering 5.1 billion United States dollars, resulting in approximately $2.8 billion of debt relief. This means that we will not service our debt to our official creditors from 2023 to 2026. Then again, it says we have concluded the negotiations with our Eurobond holders, covering US dollars $13.1 billion, which will lead to cancellation of 4.7 billion United States dollars of our debt and provide debt service relief of $4.4 billion between 2023 and 2026. And again, he says that we have concluded our negotiations with 5 of the 7 independent power producers, IPPs, which will lead to a savings of some 6.6 billion United States dollars over the lifetime of the power purchase agreement, PPAs. And those are the statistics that the finance minister puts out there. Okay, so Philip, stay with us. I'll come back to you shortly as we talk about other issues, particularly the SME issue, and it's very vital to me. But let me bring Nick Kpakpo in now. Nick Kpakpo is a law lecturer at the Gimpa Law Faculty. He's a member of the NDC, and they have also been looking at the mid-year budget review. They have some thoughts to share with us on the presentation that the finance minister put out there. So, from the look of things, the record presented by the finance minister clearly shows that we are on the path of recovery first, and then also there is some considerable growth going on. There are a lot of social interventions that have been made. What is the position of your party on these developments that the finance minister puts out?
Good morning to your wonderful and cherished listeners. For instance, it's a privilege to have the opportunity to speak to Ghanaians throughout the country. That's why this platform is very dear to my heart. This morning I'm burying my brother, but I had to leave after the first service, the pre-burial service, to be here. I missed last week too. Let me apologize. I was at the airport. I was at a place where I could not speak. I think that And good morning to comrades in Tamale, especially. I'm sure we are also live in Tamale.
Yes, we are on 99.7.
Exactly.
Assassin Radio.
Good morning. We are launching our campaign this afternoon at 1 o'clock.
Are you going to Tamale?
No, I'm not going to Tamale, but I'll be covering it from another network.
Okay.
Yes. It's for me, this government mid-year budget review just tells me the state of hopelessness that is in the country. I think that it is reported, if it is accurate, that Justice, the retired Chief Justice, yes, recently put it aptly that there is no hope in the eyes of the Ghanaian youth. I think that is telling. When you have a generation of Ghanaians known as a Gen Z, this generation of the Gen Z, who want to demonstrate for 7 days continuously, and then you look at the statistics on unemployment.
You speak to the mic.
Then you look at the statistics on unemployment. You understand? The youth unemployment, which is probably now at what? The unemployment rate is now 12%, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? It's over 14%. And then the number of Ghanaians living under poverty. Prof, you are the one who has the statistics offhand. It is frightening. It is a national security threat. You understand? You see, and I'm going to speak both ways to both governments. That is the outgoing government and probably the incoming government. We are not taking Ghanaians seriously. And I'm calling for radical solutions to our problems as Ghanaians. On this platform, I don't speak as a partisan person. I speak as a Ghanaian first. And when I read the statement by the former Chief Justice, I said, for the first time, somebody seems to be seeing what I'm seeing every day and worries me as a parent of young ones. This generation, President Nana Akufo-Addo has done some positive things. The free SHS policy, I always say, and the school feeding, which was launched by President Kufuor, continued by, those are positive social interventions. But they are not enough. They are not enough because of the challenges that we face as a country. What are our challenges? Because of the impact of COVID and the mismanagement of the economy under this particular government, the Ghanaian economy has become bankrupt, and we need to reset the economy. But we have a government that is stone deaf, blind, and refuses to hear or listen to good advice. You cannot tell Ghanaians that you are in an economic quagmire and maintain the number of ministers that you have in place now. It doesn't make sense. Do you understand?
Are you suggesting that
I'm coming.
If the ministers are reduced by, let's say, 10 or 20, it will reset the economy?
It is not just that.
Okay.
You see, you have a government that refuses to. You cannot tell Ghanaians that we should cut our coat. Do you understand? You cannot tell me that I should pay more taxes. I should understand that government is trying. And you are not cutting government expenditure. That is number one for me. You cannot have a country of 23 or 24 million and have in excess of 60 or 70 ministers. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, the statistics are showing that from 1992 to date, according to Dr. Eric Boachi-Yadom, to this year, the first quarter of the year,
yes,
government deficit is at 0.2.
Hold on.
You are talking about expenditure.
No, I'm coming. Yes. Let me land on the point first on government appointees, the level of numbers that we have in government. If you cut down the number, do you understand? You cannot tell me that this country cannot run with 20 ministers.
20?
Yes.
But your party presidential candidate is promising 60.
And I disagree with him. That's why I say I speak as a Ghanaian, first and foremost. I even say that Dr. Bawumia's 50 promise can go down further. Do you understand? Doc, imagine we get the government tells us, President Nana comes to address this country and tell us that on account of the COVID crisis and all the crises that we face, as a first step, his government, he's cutting down the number of ministers to 20. He's aligning ministries. Do you understand? And every minister will supervise 2 other ministries. Do you understand the message it will send to us Ghanaians? That is a government and a president that understands the fact that he's not just talking the talk, but he's walking the walk. We have a situation where we are not, as citizens, we are not demanding, and it should not take the Kenya. You see what happened in Kenya? When the Kenyans went on the streets and demonstrated, you saw the cabinet reshuffle. Within 24 to 48 hours, what did the government do? He sacked his entire cabinet and realigned ministries. That is the kind of problem we have in this country. The Flagstaff House. The number of appointees at the Flagstaff House is crazy. Because you see, for each of these appointees, you put them on salary. They are entitled to some form of perks in government. And that is the first step I believe we should take. Cut down government expenditure. Cut down their salaries. Look, service in government is a privilege. I always point to Trump's cabinet. If Trump never took his salary, the president of the United States, you understand, had accomplished. You see, public service should be about coming to the government to serve. So if you have not achieved something in your life, you don't have any business, we don't need you there. Let us make it that the people who are coming to serve in the government are people who have accomplished something in their lives and want to serve Ghanaians. So there should be people who are already built their house. They don't need government housing to survive. There are people who can afford their own DSTV, who can afford to fuel their own cars. They want to serve Ghanaians. So, for example, if I make Dr. Papa Kwesindum Minister of Finance, I know he will not come and ask for a V8. Do you understand? Those are the levels of people I want in government. People who can sacrifice, who can be on half salary. Do you understand?
So these are thoughts you are sharing.
I am coming. Let me
thoughts
flow.
You are sharing are very interesting thoughts.
Let me flow.
No,
and
I know, but we are interacting.
Yes, I'm saying that if Ghanaians, if we say that we want and demand of our leaders, you understand, we should be able to demand of the 2 leading presidential candidates. Do you understand? That Dr. Bawumia and Mr. Mahama, when you come, appoint 20 ministers, align the ministries. We have chief directors. We don't need regional ministers. We have chief directors in all the coordinating ministries. They can handle the issues of the ministry. You understand? We can appoint ministers who can run 2 or 3 ministries so that we cut down government expenditure. That is the first one I want to see. Flagstaff House, I want to see the numbers cut so that instead of we should have about maybe 100 staffers there who should be able to handle the presidency. The next step I'm talking about and I want to see is an engagement with Ghanaians about taxes. Do you understand? About taxes and the use of our taxes. The corruption is too much. We all visit countries outside. All of us at this table have had the opportunity of visiting one country or the other. Our roads are death traps. Our roads are death traps. If you have the opportunity of going to any country outside your country, even La Côte d'Ivoire, our roads are an embarrassment. I wonder when the president went to La Côte d'Ivoire recently for the Africa Cup of Nations, didn't he feel ashamed? Didn't President Akufo-Addo feel ashamed?
But if you go somewhere else, you also come back and say our roads are heaven.
Wilberforce.
You go to Gambia and come back.
Wilberforce, let us do this to ourselves.
Okay.
Let us aspire for something higher than what you are seeing. Let us not be sycophants in this country and behave as if there's nothing better to aspire for. Let us stop this. You cannot tell me that you can compare Ghana's roads to La Côte d'Ivoire's roads. When you speak like that, then I'm sad. What we are seeing today, our roads are death traps. Our road from Accra to Takoradi is a death trap. The number of people that die on Accra to Cape Coast, Accra to Takoradi Road is unacceptable. And all we need is a commitment from government that says that we will raise the road fund. I'm calling for a revolutionary approach towards our road expansion. We are trying, but at the pace we are going, we will. You see that what we are doing every 10 years we have to reconstruct our roads. That's what's happening. So President Kufuor comes and does something, and then because of the fact that roads, because of the way we use the roads, that's what roads we use them. So there's nothing within a cycle of 15 years, the road become useless, which means that we must have a constant supply of funding that allows us to develop our road network. And I'm saying that we cannot do road and rail. We must have a 40-year plan for our rail sector. No one government can achieve the rail sector.
Here we need about
whatever we interview the man the other time. Yes. Whatever we do, let's have a 40 to 50-year plan and say that Ghanaians, we are taxing you and we are giving you. See, the thing about this issue of taxes is that we don't have an honest conversation with Ghanaians. And I always cite the George Walker Bush Highway, the protocol they used to build that road. The payments were directly to the contractors, no middle people. That is the kind of system that we need. I'm saying that if we increase the road tax and make a bank, Ghana Commercial, I'm proposing Ghana Commercial Bank to be the one to access that fund. Let's ring fence it and say that it will be this revolutionary approach towards road construction will be for Ghanaian contractors. When you present your certificate, within 3 days, you will get payment. When you present your certificate within 3 days, you must be a Ghanaian. Look, and we have good Ghanaian. The First Sky Group, they are doing fantastic. Yes. They are doing fantastic work in the Volta region. Imagine we empower these indigenous Ghanaian and tell ourselves that within the next 20 years, the road fund, we are setting up an independent board for the road fund. We are making sure that we are increasing the road, and then we are retolling our roads. Private Ghana, a private partnership with government, was the PPP. Public-private partnerships on all our major roads. We are dualizing them. The ones that run through the West African route, we are going to Africa Development Bank and telling them that we are giving you a guarantee. Give us the money, we will pay. And tell me which Ghanaian, especially those who are the people who use these roads, the traders, who will not be prepared to pay if they know that all the major roads to Tamale, they will be dualized. We'll have 3 lanes, 4 lanes, 5 lanes over the next 20 years. We are taking out the element of the 10% corruption. The road fund will be handled by an independent board who are going to be accountable directly to the road contractors. It is because the Ghanaian politician cannot have this conversation with the Ghanaian because of the corruption. Because of the corruption. We bring a good investment such as ambulances, and then the corruption is under. Every good initiative that we have done in this country has had issues of corruption. Food, what do you call it? The food for the children. Corruption, because we appoint caterers who are politically biased. All the women organizers become the caterers. So the program will collapse. That is our problem as a country. All right.
So let me just read this message. I'll come to you, Dr. Boakye Yaadom. I also know that Philip is on the line.
I'll just round up.
And yes, please wrap up. Let me read this message.
Is this. Yes. This our budget, okay, doesn't give us any hope, because as a country, we have not come to the hard conversation that we can't develop our country on bonds, we can't develop our country on grants. The only way we can develop our country is by internal taxes. That is the truth. And the only way we can get the Ghanaian on board with taxes is if we can have an honest conversation about eliminating or bringing down the levels of corruption, so that when the Ghanaian pays his taxes, he knows that those taxes are going to be used to deploy to various sectors of the economy that have an impact.
Have you averted your mind to the tax proposal by Dr. Bawumia when he talks about a flat tax after studying the Estonian example?
Yes, so he's talking about collection of tax. I am talking about the application of the tax.
But if you don't collect it,
yes, so you see the thing about being able to collect is being able to convince the Ghanaian that you are going to deploy his taxes for something that we will benefit from.
Dr. Boachi Adam told us earlier on that as it stands today, when it comes to direct taxes, only 10% of the population is paying.
Yes.
So you must have a technology or a system that you are going to use to increase that number.
One of the things I applaud this government for is the Ghana identification card, because it has opened a lot of things. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, I told you that they've deployed this thing about road when the police see you, whatever the offense is, if you've tinted your glass, whatever it is, they put it in the DVR. So when you're going to renew, it's blocked, and then you will realize your offense. You understand? We've gotten to that point. Now, I said that we can do more, and the reason we can do more, or we have to do more, is if we want to take this country from this. You are talking about import substitution. One of the things that NDC always touts itself with is the Trouble Gas project, because what it did was to address an issue of LPG, for example. So, as you have identified, import substitution and all those things, it all boils down to
so I get the impression that you are trying to say that this thing is a gradual process. It looks like you are talking about one breath, you're talking about radicalism. Another breath, you're talking about going through the process. As a country, looking at where we have been. Wouldn't it be the process?
The process. See, the problem I have with our leading candidates in respect of for the presidency is the fact that I'm not getting. You see, one candidate, that is the MPP's candidate, is coming from. You see, there's so much has gone wrong that he's struggling for credibility. That for me is the problem with a candidate like Dr. Bawumia. Nothing he says anybody takes serious, because this is somebody who is in government.
Are you sure?
Oh, please. That's the problem. His problem is a credibility problem. My problem for Mr. Mahama is that when he wins, his period that's why he says it's a reset. I can understand it. He acknowledges that the period of time he potentially has in government makes it difficult for him to be able to have the kind of direct impact that is needed. You see, the kind of impact to rework our economy will take you more than 4 years. What you can do is to lay a foundation. But as for Dr. Bawumia, I thought that he has a missed opportunity because he is already in government. And so some of the things that he keeps talking about, if we were to take him seriously, we are things that he could actually implement and do now.
Mr. Mahama has been in government. He was president.
Power. See, that's the difference.
Yes, no.
But how do you talk about somebody who is in opposition as opposed to somebody who is actually in power? You understand? Who it says that we should have 50 ministers.
But the person you are saying
crisis he has is
the person you are saying is in opposition.
Hold on.
The person you are saying is in opposition has actually exercised executive authority in the country.
The point is, he is saying when he comes, he will bring 60 ministers. You who are in power says that when my government comes into power, I'll talk about 50 ministers. Why can't you advise the government, the president, that Mr. President, look, you have only like 5 or 6 months to go. Give me an opportunity, you understand, by allowing me, you understand, to do a cabinet reshuffle and cut down the number to 50, so that at least I can be able to sound credible to Ghanaians. Imagine, you understand, that he's able to convince President Nana Addo to reduce the number of ministers now to 50. Would you take Dr. Bawumia even more serious? In fact, no, imagine the impact that Dr. Bawumia is able to convince. Let me finish.
But you must acknowledge the fact that it's not Dr. Bawumia's government.
Whose government is it? Is it president? No, it is Mahama's government. He is the vice president of the country. You are telling me that it is not his government. Whose government is it? I'm telling you, Wilberforce, as you are sitting here. Imagine that Dr. Bawumia tomorrow, the MPP government comes out to say that based on the advice of the vice president, the president has decided to reduce the number of ministers to 50. Do you understand the impact that will have? Okay. Do you know how the narrative will change, Doc? That we are for the first time having 50 ministers under the Fourth Republic, based on the advice that this vice president is doing.
Okay, so Ni, let me do these messages and I'll come to you, Dr. Boakye Adom. You can react to some of the things he has said, and then we'll see whether we can talk about something else that the budget talked about, particularly education.
And other you are not talking about our presidential loan.
I'm coming.
Very okay.
So someone says that, why do most of the NDC communicators continue citing the violence, radicalism, and deadly demonstrations of other countries whenever they get platforms to give their submissions? They must be very, very careful. For if these Gen Zs let any anarchist, they will not be exempted. They must. So the message says that they must let them know and contribute to the calmness. So Samuel is raising concerns about issues of referring to violent activities in other places. There is a message from Abdul Basit Mahi. Says, Siniani, your prescriptions are very reasonable to reasonable minds, but you know your own people aren't buying it. You are actually sounding like a threat to the party foot soldiers, who in most cases are incredibly incompetent but very loyal, who naturally expect to be appointed to positions. So Abdul Basit Mahama is saying that you appear to be making some propositions that are not even welcomed by your own party, Ni. So yes. That's the message that Mangos says that, Ni Kpaku, I disagree with you on the comparison of JM and Bawumia. Mahama was vice graduated to a president and now coming back to be president again. Bawumia is vice, now aspiring to be president. So Mangos is saying that there is a clear distinction between Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia and John Dramani Mahama of the NDC. Okay, so George says that, Ni, what is JDM coming to reset? Is it Dumso? Council trainee allowance? Has JDM not been president before? Ni. That is George's message to Nick Kpaku. Then it says that, why do most of the NDC communicators continue cite? Okay, so I've read this already. Overfor's lawyer Ni is good at pontificating fanciful ideas for all parties to come together and develop the country. But his party and Ni himself said once that they just want power, and they launched it on a petty issue to milk it from political gains. Spare us, Ni. And that's Ampofu's message. Nick Kpaku, I really appreciate your double sword approach to dealing with the issues. That's Mangos. And there's a long message here from Kweku Ohime Boakye, who says that, Wilberforce, good morning. Ni should tell us what NDC will do. His government was worse in 8 years than what we have today. He stopped speaking like a social commentator. He should stop speaking like a social commentator and be serious. I was in Ghana, and in their 8 years, all roads were in deplorable states. He is talking about people who have not worked and they are ministers. Has he forgotten about Okujeto and Kwakye Ofosu? He showed his party will come and do same. Okay, so that's a message coming from Kweku Ohime, I should say. Bashiru says that the government is doing all the roads double. Okay, so Bashiru is saying that roads are already being done. The same people are employed by government. We are saying the government should sack them, and they are not going to add to the unemployment rate. So Bashiru is saying that this your call for drastic cuts and all that. He says that it has potential to contribute to but they are in employment, even if they are political appointees. Okay, I don't know if I'll be able to read all the messages, but let me come to you. Let me read this one. Let me read this last two, and then I'll come to you, Dr. Boakye Adom. So, Will, Ni accepts an appointment as a regional minister, or would he turn it down on principle? So, Ni, you're asking you whether if your party comes, you would accept to be a regional minister or not. For example, Greater Accra regional minister.
If I were to accept to be a political appointee, there are some things I can promise you I will not do. Number one, I will not live in a government bungalow. That's number one. You can quote me anywhere. You understand?
Okay. So John Mahama was the president for 6 months after the sad demise of John Mills, but didn't implement the 30 the 38 CD progressive free SHS till 2015. Can he tell us why John Mahama didn't do that earlier than 2015? So, the questions are being thrown back at you. Let me come to you, Dr. Boakye Adom. Doc, so a quick reaction to some of the things that Nick Papo has said, and then I'll come to you, Dr. Yorako, and also Philip. Is Philip still around? Philip? Hello, Philip.
Yeah, I'm around.
Oh,
I'm around. We'll go for some.
Okay, great. So I'll come back to you for a quick reaction, and then we'll see whether we can change the gear to a next level. Doc.
All right. Thank you.
I think that Nee has taken the narrative from being more of the budget.
Yes, I know.
But it is all good. It's part of it, enrich the discussion. Now he talks about the fact that Mahama, Mr. Mahama, when he comes, he will reset the economy, But I should have said that the economy, the reset has been done. You see, you have to understand the fundamentals of the Ghanaian economy and our challenges to be able to profess a solution to it. There are two key problems that I see in the Ghanaian economy. Number one, the informal nature of it. Now, when he was speaking, he talks about Cote d'Ivoire has good roads and all that. Cote d'Ivoire tax to GDP is around 19.2 to almost 20%. Ghana tax to GDP has been 13. It has recently moved to about 15%. What it means is that in the Cote d'Ivoire, they're able to generate more taxes relative to Ghana. I mean,
maybe 6 to 5 to 6% more.
Yes.
Nee is kicking me. I don't know why he's doing that. What did I do wrong? Doc, please go ahead.
Yes. And if we look at other African countries like Lesotho, Mauritius, Cape Verde, they do their tax to GDP in the region of 20% to about 27%. Actually, Ghana and Nigeria and Sudan has one of the lowest tax to GDP, which is lower than the African average, around about 15 or so %. So generally, the informal sector of the country, needs to be addressed, because if you don't have the money, the roads cannot be built. If you don't have the money, the ordinary Ghanaian social intervention cannot be carried out. If you have not collected enough revenue, you will not be able to administer, certain necessary services to the ordinary people. So one way of resetting the economy is addressing the informal nature. And Nee himself admitted that the Ghana card, he will applaud the government for it. By being able to come with the Ghana card, it seems that you are addressing, or you have reset the economy from more informal to formalizing the economy. Now, how do we address tax gaps? You have to, number one, identify the people. Number two, identify their income. And then you'll be able to fashion out an appropriate tax policy that will be able to rope in, Over the years, several governments have been talking about broadening the tax base, but no one has taken a pragmatic step than what we are witnessing in this time of the Ghanaian economy, being able to identify human beings and properties, So I should say, and if we read the budget carefully, the minister mentioned that due to the EVAT system, they have roped in about 2,000 more people to be able to pay taxes. You see, Ghana tax structure has traditionally been vertical, so the already existing people who pay the tax are those who have been burdened. But the approach is that now let's go horizontal. Let's try to widen the tax net by those initiatives to be able to, be able to attract or rope in a lot of people. So I think that the resetting of the economy, the steps have been laid, so we have to go into a full implementation. So that a lot of, like I was saying here in your studio the last time, that there was so a kind spare parts dealer maybe earning more than me who work in the formal sector, but I pay more direct taxes than him. They complain about the import taxes and all the indirect taxes, which we all pay. You know, there was all kinds of papers, de la paix, the business, what do you call it, those stamp that they pay, but not on their income. I mean, so we should be able to have a system that identify the cocoa seller by the street side, the water seller, and all those in the informal sector. Then we can upscale our Ghana's tax to GDP ratio to be able to rake in a certain level of revenue mobilization. If that is not done, all the beautiful things we travel and we see, it must be done with money. In Tree, they said that Nkwancha adie eyefe. Kwachi adie. So
I thought I heard Nkwanchen adia efe no.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the correction. So in basic terms, what it means is that the nice thing that we see, you know, you go to Europe, you go to UK, the nice thing that you see was built out of taxes. You know, and by taxes, I'm not saying we should pay more taxes on businesses, we should pay more taxes on individuals, but rather we should bring in those who are making so much money. Like you call a mason to work on your house or on a project for you, then you pay the person cash. He takes the money into his pocket. He doesn't pay any taxes. I mean, and those informal sector are making so much money. I mean, that they need to contribute their quota towards the development of the Ghanaian economy. So I think formalizing the system is also part of what resetting the Ghanaian economy. Then another fundamental challenge is industrialization. Agriculture industrialization. Ghana's sectorial can be analyzed into agriculture, industry, and service. I mean, so over the years you could see that the agri sector have been doing well, and you can do a comparative analysis from Mills' time to this time. You realize that it's pointing to the direction that there has been substantial investment in the agriculture. The agriculture is picking up. Even in pandemic, when Ghana was not doing so well, the agriculture grew about 6%. I mean, so the planting for food and jobs has some level of resource. I mean, people will say that if they are producing more, why are food prices expensive? That's a different discussion. But the data is showing that there has been a substantial investment in it. However, the industry has not performed well as we anticipated. So what government needs to do, and I think it is the more reason why government didn't levy more taxes. I mean, to be able to support. You see, if government doesn't charge tax indirectly, he has given you money indirectly. So your disposable income as a business, you are able to invest, you know, into.
Is that linked to the SME part of things?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, because
which is what I wanted us to talk about as the latter part of our discussion. But you can go ahead.
Yes, because about 80% of businesses in Ghana are SME. So any taxes that are slapped on an industry goes on directly to impact on the SME, and the SME are largely also owned by women. I mean, so if government don't charge additional taxes, I mean, invariably it is a support, you know, or relatively it's a support to industry. We expect to see more. You see, the natural in economy, call something like the insatiable needs. You know, our needs are insatiable. It cannot be satisfied. But I see attempts and steps by government to be able to provide the basic, or to provide the foundation for us to live into the Ghana that we want. So the resetting of the economy is very, very important. Then Neil talked about roads. I see attempts. You see, the reason I call it attempt is because we are not there yet. But I see a significant attempt by the government to address our road needs. For so many years, we've not had a proper road connecting the two major cities in our country, that is Accra and Kumasi. But that's when you drive on that road, you can see that work is ongoing. There is an attempt to link the two roads to the two major cities together. Works are ongoing, and it's encouraging that it is good to make an attempt. Even if you don't finish, you have made an attempt, and it shows the care and the thought and your proactiveness. So the things are not there yet, but we cannot also close our eyes to the fact that some attempt has been made in terms of addressing the Ghanaian problem. So, and he also talks about corruption. You see, usually we see the corruption up there. especially political leaders who are in office. This person has embezzled this. You see, but there's more corruption in the ordinary Ghanaian activities. There's more corruption. Assuming every Ghanaian decides to steal 1 cedi, multiplied by the total population of over 30 million. That's so much money. So it is not only about political leaders, but let's look at what are the causes of corruption. It is, number one, is opportunity. Yeah, if many people get opportunity
to be corrupt.
Yeah, opportunity to corrupt. Many people complain about corruption have not gotten opportunity to be corrupt. And as people get opportunity, you see the reality of who they are. I mean, so, and the Ghanaian economy is based on trust.
Explain further opportunity. What do you mean by opportunity?
Okay. So what I mean by opportunity is like, your mother don't have money to cook soup. So you can say you've never stolen fish from the soup. But when your mother cooks stew or food and it's always there, and you pass and the smell is passing, like you can smell the whole thing, it is inviting and you'll be tempted. So somebody has not been controlling a budget of about 100 million. You have never done it in your life. Then your party wins power and you have the opportunity to control about 100 million budget. Then you begin to look at the loopholes. What are the loopholes? What can I do? So opportunity, is one of the things that tempt people to be corrupt.
So are you suggesting that Nipako is not corrupt because he has not been offered an appointment, let's say,
I do not say that. I'm talking about ordinary Ghanaian.
Like CEO of Gwel Ghana Company Limited.
I'm not saying that, but I'm talking about ordinary Ghanaian. So opportunity to address corruption, you have to close those opportunities. The Ghanaian system is based on trust, but the people cannot be trusted. So you have to build a system which does not rely on trust, but rely on fact, data, and accountability. How do you build that system? You build that system by removing the human element. That is why digitalization provides solution to minimizing and possibly eliminate corruption in the Ghanaian system. So the agenda of digitalization is to reduce human interference, because you can't trust the ordinary civil servant or public servant. I mean, but we can't build a system that you are a public official, you're supposed to be ethical, you're supposed to be this, you're supposed to... Yes, the ethics are there. But when people have so much opportunity, there's no control measures. You are even forcing them to be corrupt. The system will push you to be corrupt. But when you eliminate human or reduce human interference in the system, you one way or the other, you are fighting corruption. You see, Europe and all the countries that we hope to be like them, like their country is almost autopiloted. So the influence of the public official are minimal as to the extent of decisions and the things that you can do. If we don't move Ghana to that level where the system is autopiloted, the system is digitalized, human interference is reduced, we will talk about corruption in the next 50 years if you meet the studio, and it will be worse than what it is now. And you could see that throughout the Fourth Republic, corruption keep increasing, and the Transparency International and all the other parties that talks about measure corruption keep downgrading us because people are becoming more corrupt. So digitalization is a way of reducing the corruption that we complain about. So asking the new question that President Mahama is coming to reset the system, I just want to submit to him that the system has been reset and the system has been put on a path that Ghana can grow up to a certain level.
Okay, so very interesting thoughts. Let me go to the telephone and I'll come to you, Dr. Ayoka, to also react. So, Philip, we will take your reaction on this, but just as I do that, Augustine Wood says that, can we also work on an approach on how to educate and try to change the ordinary Ghanaians' mindset so government will not have to come up with laws or chase us for taxes, but rather we Ghanaians running to pay taxes voluntarily. So Augustine Wood is suggesting a mind change and a system change, just like Dr. You are suggesting, so that people will be motivated to pay their taxes instead of chased to pay their taxes.
People naturally won't pay taxes. You see, you have to study human behavior when you are running a country. Nobody would say there's something called gift tax. Nobody wake up in the morning, you have given me gifts, so I'm coming to pay tax. It is a system you put in place. So like the the Ghana card system, it's linked to your bank account, it's linked to your mobile money. You see, you don't go and pay the tax. That's why if you don't pay the tax, the government goes straight into your bank account and picks the money. Because your income can be identified, the volume of transaction that goes through your mobile money, goes through your bank account, can easily be identified. Then we will be able to levy a certain level of taxes. You see, so taxes, corruption, everything is linked to formalizing the economy. It is natural for people who want to avoid or evade taxes. So you have to think ahead and try to put in steps to be ahead of the game. Other than that, you say, oh, you are encouraging Ghanaians to pay taxes. Please pay your taxes. They won't respond to.
It will just be speeches.
It will just be speeches.
Okay, Philip. So formalizing the economy, what's the way forward?
Well, thank you very much. I think I've heard interesting submissions on your program. Formalizing the economy, as Eric mentioned, if you want to eliminate some of these things, it has to be facts, data, and accountability. Nobody likes to pay taxes, on its own. Just walk in and go and pay your taxes. But when you put the structures in place, it will be done. So formalizing, the first thing that I would want to suggest is that, I think that the Ghana.gov payment platform is one of the ways of trying to formalize the system. I'll tell you, my property tax, I used to walk to the district assembly to go and pay, Ghana South Municipal Assembly. Now, there's a platform where you go on and then you can pay your taxes. So, formalizing the economy, trying to make it easy for people to, in the comfort of their homes, to sit and then to pay taxes. The EVAT system, I think that Eric mentioned something, but the EVAT system, when it has been put in place, 2,000 institutions, that's according to the media budget, 2,000 institutions have been onboarded. Okay, so if taxes are supposed to be paid from these 2,000 institutions, it is not now going to fill or complete copious documents. So that is one of the formalization of the economy. Now, the other issues of formalizing, let's say you're going back into agriculture, then you provide all the tools that will enable agriculture to thrive. So because we still continue to use if you like, the dated equipment that we are used to, then it's not going to help us. What is going to help us is providing the value chain. As I mentioned before, one, you have the pack houses so that there will not be the issue of post-harvest losses. Two, there will be creation of market opportunities. Okay, and then three, the inputs and then the technical training for the agri people. So that is formalizing the economy doesn't always mean maybe digitization or something, but along the value chain, the most modern elements of production ought to be in place. One of the formalizing of the economy also has to do with some of the structures that government is putting in place. The real system. Okay, look at the fishing harbors. The 10 of them which have been almost completed right now. That is the way of formalizing, if you like, the fishing industry for us. So there are a lot of things that ought to be done. Because we have left most of these things undone over a very long period of time, it is going to take us a longer period of time to have all of these in place. And then we also have to now battle with the issue of maintenance and sustenance of some of these things that we've been talking about. So on the basis of, on the case of formalizing the economy, those are the major things. But digitization plays a very important role. But right now, the national ID system, the national ID card, is one of the biggest game changers in terms of formalizing the economy and then tracking who does what. The digital address system and then all of those other, if you like, soft infrastructure that have been put in place. Those are part of the things that I think governments ought to put in place to enable us move from, if you like, the old system, the traditional system, as I'll call it, to the modern way of doing things on the basis of trying to formalize our economy.
Okay. So very interesting. Yes, please go ahead.
So yes. Yeah, but on the so basically, that's maybe responding to some of the things that Nipapo and then Eric and my colleagues in the my friends in the studio have mentioned. I'm also looking at one of the things that ought to be in place to address some of the issue of formalizing the economy, to address the issue of maybe growth, to address the issue of import dependence and things like that. I think if you study the trend of our visits or our interaction, I mean, when I say I mean the country, our interaction with some of these multilateral institutions, I mean, the Bretton Woods, the IMF, we always perform better when we are under their programs. So my thinking is, to what extent can we have, because I mean, it does that because there's this layer of scrutiny that the IMF brings. Now, if you look into IMF programs, there are things that we should be doing ourselves. Maybe there isn't the political will, maybe it's competency issue. But in the context of building structures and in the context of, I mean, roping in all these growth issues and things like that, I think that layer of scrutiny that we always get from the IMF, which brings us back to track and then to be doing things right, we need to find a way to enable us have that layer of scrutiny all the time. So my thinking, is there a way where we can always engage the IMF, even if or even when we are not in financial issues, so that we have, if you like, a relationship for them to be stay in our economy, you know, because once it comes into our hands, I mean, check the last IMF program that we had. We followed the instructions, we came out, and then it looks like, I mean, sustaining the gains that we made, and then, of course, I mean, these external issues also came in. So I am thinking that we need to have a certain kind of structure where that layer of scrutiny that an international organization like the International Monetary Fund gives us, which enables us to actually do, quote-unquote, the right things and to be on track. We need to have that kind of level of scrutiny and then the sustenance. Because look at the period that we have gone under the IMF program. It is barely 2 years. But look at the achievements that the gains that we've made. Because we sat down, we discussed that we are going to do A, B, C, D, E. We are going to put structures in place to increase our tax to GDP ratio. We are going to put these structures in place to cut down our expenditure, mobilize revenue. So it is, for me, it has always been that check and balance that the external force, which is the International Monetary Fund, always brings. So if we are able, we're going to be able to move on, okay, and sustain that. That is probably, for me, the way to go. To what extent can we? So, I mean, we need to open a broader discussion on the fact that IMF comes in and we are, quote-unquote, doing everything right. They go out and our economy goes off track. To what extent can we build structures to do what the IMF would do if we invite them in or if they give us money to run our economies? So, I think that would be my suggestion on that.
Okay, so you are, in other words, you are suggesting that the Guardian behaves very well when the policeman is standing under the traffic light. He will stop when it is amber, but when there's no policeman, when it is amber into red, he will still cross because there's no policeman there standing to arrest. So at least that's what I understand.
Yeah, Wilberforce, I mean, exactly my point. So what I mean, the policies that the IMF, I mean, we agreed with them. We agreed with them. It is not that they gave us the policies. They are policies that we have put in place, and they are saying that, look, we are going to watch you implement these policies. That is the only difference that the IMF brings. Over the last 2 years, the PCPEG, I mean, the Post-COVID Program for Economic Growth, these are policies that Ghana government put in place already. Now, the IMF comes in and says that, look, you know what, stick to these programs and projects and programs that you have put in place. We are going to give you money to do it. And then we stick to it, they give us money, and then everything is running. The moment they are out of it, so then this issue of the policeman comes in. So for me, that is the big issue. That layer of scrutiny that the international organizations give us, which enable us to be on track and get all our indicators and everything right. To what extent can we build structures or can we have it permanently and constantly? Wilberforce, I mean, private sector does it. You knew that you have to come and do, as I say, program this morning. Okay, so you came. I am sure that over a certain period of time, your bosses have been on you. Wilberforce, are you on the way? Are you coming? And then all of that. It has become part and parcel of you. So you wake up 8 o'clock in the morning, you know that you should be in the studio, check your equipment, and then run it. So just juxtapose that with the government, the running of the economy that I'm talking about. Each time, just check. We've gone to the IMF, and I'm sure that Eric there can bear me out on this. We've gone to the IMF 17 times. Things get well, and then they go off. Things get well, and they go off. When they come in, all I'm seeing is, I'm just repeating myself, it is that layer of scrutiny which only enables us to do the right thing. To what extent are we going to work to ensure that this layer of scrutiny is there? And so a lot of people are suggesting so many things, a mindset change, and then all of that. So basically, Wilberforce, I think that's
excellent submissions. I think I agree with you entirely. Yeah. Okay, so I'll come to you, Dr. Ayoraka, and there's Berima Nana Kwame who says that, good morning, Mr. Host. I don't think Ni wants to tell us that there is a clause in the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana which gives power to the Vice President to make changes in government, which DMB is not doing. Comparing JDM to DMB is a non-starter. It doesn't fit because DMB has never been the president before like JDM. JDM made us to believe that he wasn't in support of some of the policies of his boss, late Professor Mills, but couldn't do anything than to support him. But he didn't continue with those policies when he assumed the office as president after the death of his boss. Example is the review of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic. I don't think it is right to judge Bawumia by promising in opposition of what is being implemented by this government. He says that regards to Obatampa Tudura Sarah Afo, Central Regional YEA Director. Okay, all right, I've delivered your message. Ni and his party, NDC, instead of explaining their 24-hour economy, they are rather interested in attacking Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. They will go back to court again with a Casio calculator without evidence. Tell your people to tell Ghanaians what they would do if Ghanaians vote them into office. And that is Dixon's message. The initial one I read was, I believe I mentioned it, Berima Nana Kwame. Okay, and let me just do a last ones here, and then I'll come to you, Dr. Ayoraka. So how is unemployment calculated? Okay, so that message is missing up here. Says, how is unemployment calculated? Because now young guys are doing online business and governments use Start program and others. So Bashiru is trying to say that there's a lot of online gainful employment going on, and are we calculating unemployment, factoring that in? That's a question that he's asking. Basit says that for a significant paradigm change in the structure of our economy, we would need a president with an excessive dosage of courage to make difficult decisions which usually are unpopular. Is there hope in a blackmail political environment of sycophancy and hypocrisy? There's a tough question that is being asked there. And I totally agree with comments most Ghanaians being corrupt. Typical example is pass through Accra on weekends and you would witness lots of roadblocks without permits for events and programs that are all stealing and using electricity illegally. Should these same people be appointed as a government appointee, what do you think he or she will do? And so this message from Wood is in support of the argument that you were making, Dr. Eric Kwachi Yadom, about the fact that you think that there's a lot of corruption amongst the ordinary Ghanaian as compared to just pointing accusing fingers at those in authority, those in political office. Dr. Ayoraka, we are in your hands now.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to start from where your last message ended. So if you want to know the true nature of any person, there are two things I think my father told me. Give the person money or give the person power. These two things would actually bring out the true nature of the person and whether or not the person will be corrupt or otherwise. Yes, and naturally, when you are exposed, you may not be corrupt, but when you're exposed to certain things and you don't take care, you would easily fall prey to it. I recall when I started work, my mother would occasionally call me to check whether you are in the office because work starts at 8 o'clock and you should be in the office at 8 o'clock. And that is the principle and you should stick by it. So it's about the checks and balances we put in place. And I strongly agree that the digitalization of things works quite well. And many a times, the people who we celebrate in the private sector as being so goals-oriented and principled and results-driven, they get opportunity in public service, and unfortunately, they fall prey to the same issues we are discussing. Why? It is because, and a friend of mine also said the same thing to me, that, well, we are the same people. The only difference is that the systems are different. In the private sector, you are supposed to clock in when you get to work. You are supposed to, there are systems in place. You know that this gets to your desk, and from here it moves to this point, and you have timelines attached to every particular part of the value chain. But in the public sector, there's so much power in somebody's hand, and that person determines. And so somebody can say that, well, the check is ready, but let him come and see me first before I sign it off. Why? Because you think that there's so much money, and if I sign it and it goes away and I don't get to talk to this person to have some agreement, I miss out on my cut. And so that is a problem. I think that there should be, and I agree that we should have intentional, deliberate policies that put systems in place. Systems not looking at who is the boss. And as a boss, you should also have timelines that you are able to deliver. Otherwise, you wield so much power, and it comes back to the point. And once you have power, you want to show that you are the boss. But you are only first among equals. And we should begin to look at it that way in our discussion of corruption. And governance, last Nee said, governance is a continuum. Parties will come and leave, but the government of Ghana remains the government of Ghana. And I agree with him that we need to have a vision. Where do we want to go to? When I was studying back in Europe, I took a course and we had to visit, we were looking at some area which was being used for agricultural purposes. We visited them, and interestingly, when you look at the map, that area has already been zoned. Currently, it's being used as an agricultural field. But in the next 50 years, they know, based on their projection, that this is communities are going to develop and evolve in this area. We will have a school here. We will have, this is the kind of layout we'll have for the development of this area. It's well done. Today, if you have money, just drive out a little bit out of Accra, and you can buy as much land as you want to buy. So no one is coordinating anything. It makes development very difficult. And we are having a conversation around state lands here and there. We need, as a people, to have a conversation and see that in the next 20, 50 years, what is the Ghana we want to see? If a child is born today and he's 30 years, what do we want to see in this child by way of education, health? If I want to start a business, what kind of Ghana do we want to see? Let's have a bipartisan and national conversation about this. And that would inform what, for example, Nee is saying. Do we need dual lanes? Or instead of doing 5-lane roads, we rather focus on doing high-speed train tracks? That becomes the conversation that we have. Yes, the government currently is doing a lot, and from the budget statement, the Tema and Pakadan, which is my own area, beautiful one. I wish it was dual lane, because as it is, when you go, a train is going, another one cannot come at the same time because it's just a single track.
The same train that goes, the same
train that has to come. But is that what that is a starting point? And that's what Dr. Bachir was saying, that is a starting point. Something is happening, but we need to have a conversation and see, do we just do this? And how are we phasing this out? So that if it starts in region A, region B will not rise and say, and you are not bringing development to us. But because we all know that this has to be done, it's a long-term project, but based on possible returns on investment, we are going to start with this particular part of the country and we'll move to this other part. Everybody is clear in their mind and how it feeds into each other. How are we constructing this rain, or where are we taking it to? What is the end benefit from it? How do we even pay for it? Can it pay for itself? So we need to look at all of these, but until we get there, what is being done is critical. And that is why I think that the comment by the minister that they are considering, and for me it is a way of preparing our minds. They are considering reintroducing the road tolls from 2025. For me, I am fully in support of such a policy, because look, every single pesewa is useful. But what I didn't like in the previous operationalization of the road toll system is how we collected road tolls. It was such a burden to go and pay 50 pesewas or 1 cedi, and you get stuck. And normally, I don't know whether it is deliberate. Any portion before you pay road tolls, more often than not, was in a bad state, and you have to go through this ordeal just to pay.
It was created a go slow. So that is what was always piling up the traffic. So, for example, the Kaswa Malam one, the Temamoto Way one, the one you were exiting the Ebri to the Ebri Mountains and all that. It was always go slow there because of the nature of the road there, and also the manual way of collecting the tolls.
Absolutely, and that is where I think that if we are going back to the road toll system, that should not be the thing. You don't punish us for wanting to pay road tolls. Rather, make it efficient. And so I am looking forward to the innovations. My proposal has always been, and it has not changed. Every one of us who drives a car, the car ought to be roadworthy. And so once a year, you take your car for examination. And they look at it and give you a sticker that says that this car has been examined and is roadworthy to be on the road. Even though sometimes I see some car trotros, even as I sit here passing, and I'm asking, did they really go through the process? But whether or not they did or not, they have the certification. Let us look at the possibility that at the point of getting your roadworthy certification, you actually pay a road toll. Because once you have the certification, it presupposes that the car is going to be on the road. And if the car is going to be on the road, then you are paying upfront. And so it's not a matter of whether I use it or not, because sometimes the way we use our road tolls, the road toll system, it is also uneven. You live around just a place just after a road toll, and it means that every day you are using it. And you can drive from here, apart from what we used to be at Nsawam. Assuming you are from Koforidua, you are going to Ngoko. That's a long distance you are going to drive, but you pay nothing. But if you live at Ayimensa or Ebri, Pediase, and you are coming to Adenta, you would have to pay a road toll and go back. That's a very short distance. And so it wasn't fair. But if you do this up front, whether you use it 20 times or 100 times or even a single time drive, you are still paying the road toll. And it should be taken up front. It takes away all the human intervention, the traffic that builds up in collecting it manually, etc. And I think that is something that I really strongly recommend to the ministry to consider. Another thing which I think we have to also look at, which was in the budget statement, is the issue of property taxes. You see, it's such a look at the government for many years is unable to collect property rates, and look at the kind of development that is taking place. And we expect government to actually have deliver on roads, utility, social amenities. All of these come at a cost, and government must find a way of empowering the MMDs. These developments happen within their supervision. They provide permits for them to be able to build. And so you should have a system in place where you are able to follow up. Don't just issue the permits. Have a follow-up system to know who is where, and take property rates, and that can help increase our revenue mobilization. I want to make a point that as part of building national quality and increasing our revenue mobilization as a country, we should have a way of linking our Ghana card, which has now become a unique identifier. I mean, countries in Scandinavia, especially in Sweden, if you don't have a national number, identity number, there are certain things you can't do. There are certain shops that won't even sell to you. You have your cash. You say, I have money. You say, no, we don't want your money. This is meant for persons who are living in Sweden. So if you don't have a Swedish national ID, it means that you don't live here. You don't belong to us. The state doesn't recognize that you are, so you don't benefit from this. And we should have a situation where we get there. If you are a national and you have a Ghana card, it should be linked to a number of things. You are going to get a driver's license. Let us see your tax clearance certificate. You are going to get meter. You want to buy get a meter to your house to be able to check your consumption. Let us see your tax clearance certificate. When we begin to demand some of these as a requirement, then people will begin to know that, hey, look, whether I am an informal worker or a formal sector worker, I still have a responsibility of paying my taxes, because these become preconditions to get certain benefits later on. And we should have a way of getting this education across. And it should be quite easy. And I'm glad that a lot has been done in that space. Earlier, if you wanted to even pay your tax, you had to go and somebody will ask you questions and all kinds. But now, at the comfort of your home, you can still do something. I think we have come far. We are not there, but there's a lot we can do. And let us acknowledge that we are not where we want to get to, but we are not where we used to be. And see how we can collectively move on. Let me end with this. That what I am looking forward to, and that is in reaction to Senior's submission. You see, we are going to an election, and the leading candidates must tell us what the ability to diagnose the problem. For me, is key. It's half the job done. But sometimes when I listen to some of the narratives, I ask myself, are we solving the same problem? So you should be able to let me know. And we all, Dr. Abuachi, we all do consultancies. When they give you the RFP, request for proposal, you are supposed to indicate your understanding of the proposal and your ability to tell that client that you understand the proposal in itself a plus. It gives you a mark. And now you propose to the client how you will solve that problem.
Yeah.
So that is how I see the economy. Don't just come, and I'm eagerly looking forward to the different manifestos that the two leading political candidates were going to bring. And this afternoon, I am going to monitor and see I want to see whether truly you understand the problem. And don't just tell me you are going to review SHS, free SHS. But tell me that free SHS has done well, like Ni has admitted, which is very good. I am all for free SHS. But are there issues? What are these problems? And how do you want to innovatively solve these problems given the opportunity? Then I think that you are really doing us some good to make a fair decision, a fair analysis. And that is, for me, let us begin to look at these with this sort of lenses. What is the problem that they want to solve? Because, and maybe Nick can help me, I've been trying to, maybe this afternoon, after the 24-hour economy, for example, I've been trying to understand, to get real understanding so I can do a fair analysis on it. So let us begin to look at all these dynamics as we think about national consensus, national nation building, to make sure that we don't come back here in 4 years' time and be discussing this same thing. But we can say that, 4 years ago we discussed this and we have made significant progress.
Okay, yes.
Let me just pick something from what you said. And I've been wondering, seriously, as a Ghanaian, not as a partisan person, that we've proposed this 24-hour economy for example, the ports. And we all agree that if our ports are working 24 hours, it means that we will have increased revenue. One question I'll be asked is, do we have enough goods coming in that can support a 24-hour? I don't have the statistics.
Or staff to work.
But that's the point. So the idea was that if can we run, because there are complaints about inordinate delays at the ports. And if we are to kick in the 24-hour economy, which is what? 8-hour, 3 shifts. You understand? It means that we can actually, if it is operationalized and if it can be done, it means that we can clear more goods if the port is working 24 hours. You understand? Yes. So certain aspects of the port, I believe, are working in terms of the offloading and all those. I don't know. But if it's done, the numbers I hear is that we can automatically put in about 9,000 people in there. It is something that we should look at. I was doing my door-to-door campaign in my area because I'm a branch chairman, and I met a cocoa processing factory. Apparently, it's located in Kwabenya, and I met young people who have been employed, and they told me that they were going on their shift. So most Ghanaian companies do the 12-hour shift instead of the 8-hour shift. And I think that the TUC should be interested in this because they have accepted that the 24-hour economy is potentially a game changer. So it also goes to the rights of workers, because if you are doing the 8-hour shift instead of the 12-hour shift, it goes to the health of your workers as well. Because instead of doing the 8, but of course it comes with cost. because you have to employ 3. It's all
so
about
it's a cost.
It's a cost. That's why the incentives, you understand? That's why the incentives must be looked at. And we must have, you see, I am looking towards the day where we will depoliticize. We've depoliticized our petroleum politics. Remember, the prices of fuel used to be a thing that used to really worry us, and it hurt the Ghanaian economy because of the issue of subsidies. At some point, we got the sense that if we continued going in that direction, we were hurting ourselves. We were cutting your nose to spite your face. So we, somehow, moved away from politicizing our petroleum.
It was actually the Mahama government that deregularized it in 2015.
But it had been a conversation.
Yeah.
It had been something that had worried successive governments, including Kufuor's government, because it is one of the ways of needling your opponent when he's in power. That, the government has this power, this magical power to be able to reduce prices drastically. And we were playing politics with it, knowing very well that when you touch petroleum prices, or if you don't increase it when you were supposed to increase it, you were only accumulating debt. You understand? I am looking at the situation where, having come to the realization, all parties say that our economy is in crisis. Nobody is running away from that fact. Rather than playing to the gallery, let's have a national conversation about where we want our economy to be within the next 10 to 20 years. That is why a lot of people have called for a developmental plan that has the buy-in of all parties, which is legislated and which cannot be changed by any government unless with a 2/3 vote in parliament. If we're able to do that, we will be on the road to recovery. Because the way we are going, where we are doing, I call it a piecemeal approach towards an economic recovery. We are all pretending that it is IMF, it is loans that can recover or take our economy to. It is not true. Fellow Ghanaians, it is absolutely, if any party tells you that it can use loans, it can use grants to change the fundamentals of your economy, he is lying to you. It is through your taxes. There is no country. Look, I have seen there are some places where railway lines are continuously being built. Some of them had 40 years. I was in Maryland. You understand? Where my uncle told me that, look, this tram, their train system, for 40 years since he has lived in that area, they've always been constructing it, and it doesn't work. But you see, the beauty of it is that you can see the prices. You look at the price. You look at the plane fare. If you look at the plane fare, if you look at the train fare, if you look at the bus fare, you have options, and all of them run on time. They all carry mass, So it is a way.
Your pocket determines the one you choose.
Thank you. You understand? It is a way. So today, like this, all of us who wanted to go to Tamale, beyond flights, everybody seems to be stranded, because if you're doing the car, it's about 10 hours. You could have done the train. Imagine that we had the train moving from Accra to Tamale. We had what do you call it? Vehicles that because we have maybe 4 lanes. When we're out of town, we had maybe 4 lanes. In town, we have 3 lanes. So the road network is better. You understand? Some of the policies do not have to have benefits today. For example, Agenda 111. It is my prayer, and I'm really, and I will appeal to President Mahama when he wins power, that the Agenda 111 should not suffer. You see, one of the things that I find very vindictive about this government is about some of the projects, the health projects that they didn't complete. The one in Aferi, for example, I see absolutely no reason why. Because you see,
they are all being completed.
They, for 8 years, come on, we Wilberforce, for 8 years, some of these projects were at a standstill. This Agenda 111 has the potential to change the access to healthcare. You understand? Because a lot of them have gotten to. I'm in court today litigating over what do you call it? E-blocks. Litigating that the e-blocks projects, all of them should be completed. Because if the e-blocks have been completed, some of these fast track things will not happen. We need to hold government accountable and let them understand that some of these projects are government money. It is not individuals' money. And so for the Agenda 111, I plead with whichever government wins power that I know the MPP is trying to rush, that they themselves have come to the realization that they cannot finish all. But some of them, where they've got into, and I've seen it with my eyes, if we leave them to to the fate of the Kumewu health projects and others, will be destroying our future.
So that's a very good point made there. And I don't know if Philip is still with us on the line.
Yeah, well, because I'm here.
Oh, wow.
I want to conclude.
You are such a loyal person. I really thank you for staying on.
Thank you.
Yeah, so please,
okay.
let's pick your wrapper. I had wanted us to talk about SMEs. Okay.
Actually, I would have also loved to speak about SME,
yes.
but given the time, let me just respond to something. Nii made something. You see, there's 24-hour economy, 24-hour economy. I only hope and pray. Maybe it's early days yet. I want us to see what's in the NDC manifesto to find out what it is in the 24-hour economy. But the 24-hour economy, as I know it, the 24-hour economy is supposed to be the byproduct of the resilience of your initial conditions for any economy for takeoff. So let me break it down. What are those initial conditions? The initial conditions is the resilience, consistency, sustainability of your security, of your financial infrastructure, of your legal infrastructure. So if all of these are actually resilient and are working well, then the economy can work around the clock. So within the context of wanting to build a 24-hour economy, it means that these structures are actually being put in place. For instance, the financial infrastructure. Okay, financial inclusion in terms of this interbank operability. You can do transfers, you can undertake transfers whenever, wherever. If your roads are good, then you don't have to park your articulated truck after 6 p.m. because of maybe potholes on the road. Or for instance, because there are armed robbers and things on the road, if your security infrastructure is good. If your energy is also intact, then you can actually produce round the clock. Again, but apart from all of these, what also drives the 24-hour economy is the structures that companies are put in place in their production lines. So, as I said, it's early days yet. But my understanding of a 24-hour economy is not the narrative that I'm actually hearing around. So I'm just tarry there. Hold on till we see something in there. But 24-hour economy are all the structures that you put. It is a byproduct of all the structures that you put in place to engender production. So if you don't have energy, if you have doom, so how do you do 24-hour economy? If your road network is not good, how do you do 24-hour economy? If your road is full of thugs, how do you do 24-hour economy? And then if in the context of doing the 24-hour economy, is it government's business or private sector's business? So if you're going to do 24-hour economy, are you going to tell ShopRite, for instance, that, hey, you continue selling for 24 hours, even though they know that their customer or their client base is actually up to the 9 to 5 people when they close from work up to 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then, they don't do any shopping. They have to open their shops. 24-hour economy. Are we going to tell Controller and Accountant General to be running 3 shifts? That after 6 p.m., some set of people are coming, and what work are they going to do? So as I said, I don't want to go into it too much. I want to have the opportunity to maybe read that document and interrogate it. So that's on it. Now you wanted to talk about SMEs. I think that the government
2 minutes on SMEs. 2 minutes on SMEs for all of us, because the government says it has earmarked 8.2 billion Ghana cedis for SMEs because they are the bedrock of the country's economy.
Actually, the minister actually said he has mobilized.
Yes.
They've mobilized it from Development Bank Ghana, Exim, GA, and then all of those. Now, the reason is, the SME sector constitutes about 80 to 90% of the economy. And that's what Eric, Dr. Bachiyadon was trying to. That's the part of the informal sector. Now, their challenges have always been the same: finance, gaps in their skills, requests, limited access to technology, lack of digital infrastructure, and then on and on and on. So to get our economy working, to create a lot of jobs, then you should address the issue of the SME sector. So the issue of dealing with the Development Bank, Exim, GA, NDIP, YE, and all of those other state institutions, mobilizing money to provide the technical support, provide the finance that they need, and provide the market and then the technology that supports production. I think that is the way to go. If you look at our country, how many very big, big as in the realms of millions, how many big companies we have? It is all these small businesses employing 2-3 people, asset base of about 1 million, 2 million cedis type of companies. So I think that on that score, the SME growth and opportunity program that government is putting in place to connect these SMEs to address issues of their challenges by providing resources and to address issues of expertise shortages by helping giving them training, and then the opportunities by linking them to markets is one of the ways to go. And then I think GAA is doing that with I think the MasterCard Foundation and a couple of other projects. So limited time, but basically this is what I would have to conclude it.
Okay.
With Wilberforce.
Thank you very much, Philip. Thank you very much for your.
Thank you. You're welcome.
The courtesy of your company. I thank you very much. Okay, so I'll come to you, Dr. Boakye Yaadom, and as I do that, let me just read these messages. It will probably be the last batch of messages that I read, and we talk about SM. I knew you wanted to react to some of the things, so you can do that and then talk about SMEs. So, did your NDC government add a single concrete or a block to KNUST's 800-bed capacity hospital that President Kufuor started? That's Maxwell asking a question. And then Kweku Ohime says that Wilberforce, all these guys in your studio really understand the issues on the economy and how the economy has been reset. Apart from Ni, who gave different ideas. Ni also has his own perfect understanding of the economy. Kweku, thank you for your message. Have they stopped politicizing fuel prices? And Maxwell is asking you, Ni, that it looks like the point you were making, your own party has not stopped politicizing fuel prices. Our unemployment numbers or data are skewed and may not be reliable, because when a Ghanaian is asked whether they are gainfully employed or not, they would usually ask a counter question, why, as an answer. They would want to know the purpose of the question. If they realize there may be opportunities for the unemployed, they would say they are not in employment. Running an African economy is a really big challenge because there are too many variables that are not reliable or cannot be qualified. Even Lee Kuan Yew would probably fail here. And that is Mohammed's message there. Dr. Boakye Yaadom.
Thank you very much. So a quick one on the 24-hour economy. I think we probably need a time to talk about the two political parties and their main
proposals.
Message. Yes. Yeah. I see the NDC more of the 24-hour economy, and I see Dr. Bawumia more of the digitalization, and we put the two on a scale. But for the benefit of the discussion, you see, for you to propose a solution, Dr. Herford was saying that you should understand the Ghanaian problem, and I think the Ghanaian problem is clear. Every major document by UNDP, World Bank, IMF has outlined the Ghanaian economy, and the challenges are very, very clear. I mean, so we need to find out whether these two, which of these two proposals is able to address the fundamental problem. You see, Ni mentioned the fact that IMF solution will not cause any economy to grow because it doesn't address the fundamentals. I mean, and in the year which we have the IMF, we tend to do it, then we'll go back. So it means that what the IMF is giving is just like somebody going to the hospital, they give you the medicine, then you feel well, you go back, then it comes again. It's just treating the symptoms and not the underlying or the main problem. So we need a proposal going to the poll, which that will be able to change the fundamentals. And ask yourself, is 24-hour economy efficient and effective enough addressing the Ghanaian economy? Yes, there are countries around the world in like Korea, Japan, and some states in the US that are running the 24-hour economy, and it tends to create a certain level of employment and all that. But the 24-hour economy, to my estimation, will not be able to address the fundamental challenges of the Ghanaian economy, which include infrastructure development, which also is unemployment issue. 24-hour economy may solve unemployment to some extent. There is a researcher in Aberdeen University that anticipates that Ghanaian economy will grow over 30% when there is a 24-hour economy. Maybe true, maybe not. I mean, but we need to interrogate the fact. Then we have to also talk about fiscal imbalances that the Ghanaian economy is facing. You see, 24-hour economy should be market driven. I asked a question, does this station operate 24-hour economy? Does it does it operate 24 hours around the
24 hours?
Yes, because there's demand for it. There are people who are listening. Some time ago, even in GBC, at 12 o'clock, the station goes off because nobody is there to watch or listen. Nobody is playing.
In fact, during the height of Doomso, most radio stations were going off around 10, 11, and then coming back the following morning around 4 or 5. Yes.
So what it means is that if there are customers in the queue, there's demand on you. As a private sector, it's a motivation enough to operate 24-hour economy. If there's no market for it. So what drives 24-hour economy beyond the infrastructure should be the demand, the disposable income, you see, in the private sector. If these things are not there, forget about 24-hour economy. If we go to also in the night, there are people buying and there are people selling because the system has already been set out. And my colleague Philip mentioned that 24-hour economy is a byproduct. It is something that will come on a system that has been built, and not, I should say, 24-hour economy is an effect, not a cause of economic growth. When the economy grows, it will naturally be forced to operate 24-hour economy. In Medina, some years ago, it used not to bustle in the night, but now in the night, there's an active market going on. So if we set the fundamental 24-hour economy, will automatically run. You know, so we have to be able to interrogate the issue. And even in the public sector, you see, if we don't take in the name of creating jobs through a 24-hour economy, we'll be increasing the public wage bill, which will be a problem. You know, already because of unemployment, there are a lot of the government budget for paying compensation keeps going up. So now what you're going to do is that if we bring this 24-hour economy without the corresponding demand, you are going to divide a job of one person for 10 people to do on a shift basis.
And pay all the 10.
And pay all the 10.
The same amount.
Yes, so there's no value addition. We have not created a job. We have not created what demands to be paid for. But because we want to solve a problem of unemployment, we have to pay people for doing nothing. So we have to have a proper thought through.
Okay. So unfortunately, we've run out of time and we couldn't talk about the SME issues. Oh, okay. I really wanted us to do, but I believe that we will have subsequent conversations because.
So maybe a quick one on the SMU. You see, we have identified their problem to be finance, but I see that another major problem is the supervision. We give them the money, they go and buy new cars, they spend the money anyhow without the supervision. So in as much as we are providing this money for them, we should also provide the supervision to ensure that the money is used to what is intended to be.
Dr. Ayaka, 1 minute.
Well, so I just want to encourage, especially startups, to try and put their systems and governance systems in place. Because if you want to run any sustainable enterprise, then your fundamentals, like any economy, must be right. And so if you're starting, you might be just 1 or 2 people, but make sure your record keeping is upright, your registration is correct, what you need to do with the tax agencies, make sure everything is right so that you can easily access some of these funds. And I want to plead with the agencies responsible for disbursement to also focus on a lot of young students who are coming out of school with a lot of innovative ideas. Okay. And they should be working with the universities to help them with some of these things.
Okay, so there's a last message here. Abdul Basis Muhammad says that new mobilization for SMEs. How different is this from the Obatampa program? The objectives of the scheme was to provide emergency relief funds for MSMEs and entrepreneurs in Ghana, establish a comprehensive and financially sustainable business. So he's asking a question about what's the difference between that mobilization ongoing and the existing
what has happened to Maslok? It has always been a vehicle for party people to dip their hands into. This SME thing, it is a very laudable program. But the bane is always what? Corruption.
And the supervision that you talked about. Okay, we've run out of time. So that has been our show for today. My guest who joined me for today's show, Dr. Antoinette Tibudako, is the Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. She is in Boko campaigning with the Vice President. They are today in Boko and other places in the Upper East region. And then we were also joined in the studio today by Eric Boachi Yadom, Dr. Eric Boachi Yadom, Senior Lecturer in Banking and Finance, University of Professional Studies. And then Dr. Hayford Mensah Ayirakwa. He is a development economist and also a lecturer at the University of Ghana. Nikpapo Samoa Ado, managing partner Ado and Ado Legal Attorneys and a lecturer at the Gimpa Law Faculty, a member of the NDC. And then Philip Kobner, who joined us via telephone. He's a managing partner. So Philip is a lawyer. I just saw managing partner here. Maybe he says that he's a Secada Consulting Limited. He said managing partner.
No, it's not a law. He's not.
Yes, usually managing partner is.
The accountants and others.
I can also use managing partner. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So Philip, thank you very much for coming. Gentlemen, thank you as always. This show has been produced by Emmanuel Ohiming with the able support of Daniel Gidiglo. My name is Wilberforce Asari. Thank you very much for the privilege of your company.